Hey everybody, I'm Ramon Mejia from the LitRPG Podcast. This is a live broadcast on YouTube, on Google Hangouts. We're broadcasting to the entire world, and a very small fraction of those people are actually watching us at this point. But today it's just going to be a hangout between myself and some LitRPG author friends. We're going to start off with Jeffrey Falcon Logue. Pull him up on the screen for you guys to look at. Say hi to everybody, Jeff.
Hello.
Jeffrey. Now, Jeffrey Falcon Logue is the author of a very familiar series. I'm trying to pull up the information. Yeah, there we go. That's me and here. So the Slime Ninja Chronicles. We also have his latest addition into that series, the Dungeon Wars. So there he is. So folks, you can go check out stuff. The Dungeon Wars just came out real recently. So if you're a fan of his series, definitely go check out his stuff. Also on the broadcast, we have Gabriel Rathweg, who is the author of I Am Gamer, which is probably your most popular series at this point, right, Gabriel?
Oh, 100%.
And he's also the author of The Warrior Academy and Earth Online, which is probably my favorite series just because it is so wacky and funny. And it was so experimental going into that because you incorporated music, you incorporate like this whole soundtrack bit, and there's a bunch of like really quirky, crazy, potty thing that goes into that series. It's one of the most original things I think I've ever read in our genre. I Am Gamer is a little more traditional. It's alternate history stuff, but you also get some action adventure, a little bit of romance. So really good stuff there.
Thanks,
and Taj L is our last member of the panel today. Charles Dean might be joining us a little bit later. But Taj L is the author of Ruins of Majesta, Volume 1, Blood and Cupcakes. We're all anxiously awaiting Volume 2, by the way.
The next few days are actually up on Royal Road right now.
So you can go check them out there.
You can hit on Royal Road and just search for Ruins of Majesta, and it starts right where the book ends. So
there you go, folks. Those are all our guests. And of course, I'm Ari Mejia. That's what I read in. I'm also the author of Adventures in Terra, Project Alpha, and Planet Bound. We just released the audiobook for Planet Bound. It's just sci-fi survival story with snarky AI, aliens, pirates, some really fun action adventure stuff there as well. So we all have things that we would like to get paid for. And people to buy our things because we all have bills. But today we're mostly just hanging out. So feel free to comment in the show notes about in the notes about any questions you have for any of us. Otherwise, we're just going to be talking and chat about the things that we're doing right now. So what are you guys working on? Let's start off with Gabriel Rathweg.
All right, cool, man. Oh, I'm glad we could all get together. I know it was all a spur of the moment, but that's pretty cool. You know, it's like, hey, what's everybody doing tonight? Let's shoot the shit.
Yeah, that's really what actually happened. It's like, oh, who wants to hang out tonight? And then someone's like, oh, let's stream this. I'm like, why not? Content.
Yeah, it's fun, you know. I'm actually working on Earth Online 5, actually. You know, as a matter of fact, which I'm pretty excited about. I should finish that up in February. Right now, I'm concentrating on a new book I'm working on. I'm starting a new series. It's kind of like it's a Fallout post-apocalyptic lit RPG.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it was in the back of I'm Gamer 2. I was gonna make it a harem, but it's not gonna be a harem.
Okay.
How much money you could be making?
I know, man. Like, dude, I could put out this harem book and hit like top 100, right? It's crazy how the harem's selling.
Oh my god. I want to make a kitty harem for my main character.
You'd hit bestseller. You'd be bestseller. Kitty harem.
It's like I love my kitties. I love my kitty cat.
No, but I'm gonna try something new. I want to do this thing where you remember, like in the '80s, whenever you watch an action movie, there was like,
no, I don't.
There's like a 10-second sex scene. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
sure.
In Commando, there's like a derogatory 10-second sex scene with just some random chick. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Die Hard has one too. Mm-hmm. There's a little few seconds in there.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna do like 80s action flick. So instead of a harem, it's just gonna be a guy that sleeps with a lot of chicks.
A lot of scenes of him waking up next to hot women, basically.
Yeah.
I get that.
Shorter, less like kind of, but you know. So I'm trying to.
If he's shorter, don't spoil that for the audience. That should be a surprise. So
Well, at
probably
least they didn't leave in the middle of the night.
yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
what you're working on, Gabriel. So all that sounds
Yeah.
very interesting. I have noticed actually a number of authors are working on this sci-fi apocalypse RPG kind of system. Stories as their next thing that they're doing. So I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know. Well, it's the same concept of like this post-apocalyptic world. It's a very fascinating kind of story to tell because you're combining post-apocalyptic storytelling with RPG systems that can be very fun, especially through something very popular like Fallout. So hopefully that works out for you.
So that's why everybody's on it, right? Like it comes out, we play a game, you're like, oh man, I got all these great ideas.
I'm inspired suddenly. Yeah, is that what you're playing? What is it? Fallout 76?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to stop. I had to delete it I had to finish, stop, so I could start writing. Man, I get too much gaming. There you
go. Okay. Next person, let's go with Falcon. What are you working on, man?
I just put out my book last Friday.
Congrats!
Thank you.
Congrats, buddy.
So let's see. I'm kind of dividing my time at the moment because I also just graduated. So putting in together a life schedule, getting some putting in some workout, figure out writing, see if I can get a job, all that fun stuff.
Wait, is an author your job? Part-time job, maybe?
I haven't released anything in a year, essentially. So
you just released something, so you'll get paid in that in 3 months from now.
Yeah, in 2 months.
Yeah.
But I'm working on the video game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Yeah.
Certainly better than the version I sent you.
Well, the version you sent me was essentially the first. It was like the first 2 levels and a boss battle, and I think there was more secret areas I never got to. I broadcasted when I was demoing it on the podcast, and it was good music, good decent actiony fights. You got to fight one mini boss for sure, the Gargoyle, which you featured in other videos, and it felt pretty good. So if you've improved on that, I think it's going to be a fine game.
Yep, Charles Dean gave me some backhanded compliments, and I fixed those things. Actually, a back-bearded compliment. How about that?
Ooh, back-bearded. Oh, he just used the tip of his beard. Yeah.
So improved that, and it took a break in December for all my workers to take a break, and now they're all back working for me again. Got some amazing concept art. Got a really good PR system. That Kickstarter should be coming out end of March, beginning of April. And then I'm also working on my new book. It's going to be called Hungry Dungeon.
Now, is that a sequel to the Dungeon Wars, or is it a different series?
This is a same universe, different series. I've got the first 4 chapters on the railroad, but every chapter is going to involve a cooking recipe.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
I've actually thought of a short story of a similar concept regarding cooking before. So I'll have to check out yours to see if maybe I can be inspired by it.
It's short at the moment, but I'd like that. And then I don't know, probably nobody noticed since nobody bought it, but I took Hero of Knockdown off Amazon, and I re-edited that and improved it. So I'm going to put that back up, work on the sequel to that, since a lot of people have been bugging me for it. And also I work on the next Dungeon Wars book. So
so you have some actual plans coming in for the near future, even if you don't get like a regular job, which I know you're looking for because you have a degree in a thing that you happen to get. Writing might help pay the bills in the meantime. Nice part-time job, As
long as you can get the ball rolling, right, guys?
Exactly.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Gotta get the ball rolling.
We all love rolling balls.
Out, man. You gotta keep putting stuff out. You can't. The longer in between books, man, the harder it is.
The harder it gets.
Publish or perish.
Yeah, man.
That's one of the things that I wish I had known when I first started. I would have definitely just stayed with the serials to start off with, and then just got like 4 or 5 volumes up on Royal Road and then published. But now that I'm published, it's like, okay, keep these books cranking.
Oddly enough, the people who buy your stuff want more if it's good. Which isn't a bad problem to have. It's just, expectations of stuff.
Yep. Can't wait for that review, Ramon. Oof.
Yes. You're definitely going to think things about it. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know. And like I said, I've only started the first beginning part. I'm about 15% into it. So haven't got too far yet. On to Taj L. Taj L, my man. What are you working on?
Oh, God.
No. Okay. So, of course, there's Ruins of Mejia 2. which has been a long time coming. Basically, at the end, I don't know how many people, but this is a little bit spoilery. At the end of book 1, there is a dungeon involved.
Gasp!
You know, and book 2 is all about special prize dungeons. So it's going to be one of the craziest dungeons that people have put together yet so far. So there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody, whether you like platformers or undead grinds or, you know, like tower defense. There'll be a little something for everybody in there. So there's that. I'm also working on another project called The Gray. More of an experience-based, like, so you basically get experience from kills, and then you use that experience to buy skills. So as opposed to leveling, you know. Okay. So so I'm basically just doing a lot more. So it's actually helping me a lot to have 2 stories I'm working on, because I'll be looking at Ruins of Majestic and being like, where does this need to go next? Because that's my baby. And then I can just turn to The Gray and be like, okay, I can just write you out because you're not published and nobody knows who you are yet. I can slap you around and make so much fun. Other than that, I've just been doing construction, you know.
So you're saying you have a main story, then you got a side story you're enjoying a lot more sometimes.
I'm polystorious.
Yeah.
Polyliterate? What would that be, polyliterate?
That sounds right.
Yeah. I like polystorious a little better. I think the S makes it sound sexier.
Yeah, you know, let's see. Polyauthorist. Well, you know, no, we have to figure this out now, because it's like, because you got to make sure you're not mixing your Greek and Roman prefixes and suffixes and do all the etymologies. Never mind.
I'll let you guys handle that.
Yeah, I just make up words, and I assume people like them at some point.
I do too. I love making up words, and hearing them thrown around is even more fun. And just because, here's a cat.
Oh, hey, kitty.
Kitty.
She's so mad at me for picking her up. She's like, meow, put me down.
Do it again.
So there we go. So
that's it for this.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
There she goes.
There's
cat abuse.
There's a mini boss if I've seen one.
Oh gosh.
That cat oh my god, that would be Maya's nightmare. But I don't want to fight the Fluffy.
Hey, so Ramon, what are you working on, brother?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about me. I'm one of these authors too. I'm working on currently I'm in the middle of working on Project Alpha book number 2. I recently finished last year Adventures in Terra books 1, 2, and 3, and I found a nice place to pause there. I got out Project Planet Bound, which is a standalone sci-fi LitRPG story. Did the audiobook for that. Got that out recently this last couple weeks. And now I'm just working on Project Alpha book 2, and I plan to break book 3 and book 4 to finish off that series before returning to Adventures on Terra, because I've learned that people like series, and if they buy the first book in the series, they're like 2, 3, and 4, and so it's less advertising costs apparently. So financially, it's better to work on a series and have that completed like 4 or 5 books before you start doing other projects apparently. So that's what math and some of these writer conferences I've gone to have taught me.
I know, man, but it's so like you can't. Like, I know you need to work on like 2 or 3 or 4 in a series, but like you finish a book and you're like, man, I'm burnt. I can't do in this world anymore. I can't keep thinking about these characters. I need a break, you know? Like it took me between Gamer 1 and Gamer 2, like 4 months to release Gamer 2. It's a long time. I usually don't take that long. I needed a break for like 2 months just to like reset, you know?
Right. It sounds like you were really into it.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah, but actually, like writer fatigue is a real thing. Like you're right, you're spending like hundreds and hundreds of hours writing in the same world with the same characters, just like just like putting your entire heart and soul and brain into this story, and then at the end, you're just like, for me personally, by the end of the story, I'm like, I just want this to end. That's why a lot of the endings of my stories are just like, bam, cut. Like I'm tired, like bad guy dead, explosion, or whatever the case is, right? That's why my stories end that way sometimes. And my editors have had to come back and tell me, look, Ramon, I know you're frustrated, but you need to do a slightly better ending on this. You know what I mean? And
you can't just throw it away. Don't throw it away at the end. You know, that's what the football teachers would tell you. Just keep pushing your legs, keep pushing the legs, keep pushing.
there's a reason that most of us end books on cliffhangers. Like legit. I mean, I'm not lying. Like, you get to the end, you're like, I'm fucking done. I'm done.
Just done. Just
We'll figure this
done.
out later. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a couple times I'm writing. I finished I Am Gamer, and I'm like, I had about 5,000 more words I could have wrote, and I was like, nope, I'm fucking done. I'm over it.
It's like, I'm tired of these characters. Give me a different world to write in. And that's usually, I mean, that's generally what I've done. It's like I read Adventures in Terror book 1 and 2, and then I dropped out to direct Project Alpha as a one-off, and it was really popular. So I figured I had to come back to that at some point. Then I went back to Adventures in Terror book 3, and then I got burnt out. Like, oh, I need something entirely different. I chose sci-fi as a genre, and like the weirdest thing that was the opposite of what I was currently writing, which was like a sci-fi survivalist. So I'm like, oh, maybe The Martian meets LitRPG, and we'll see how that kind of goes. And that's what ended up being Planet Bound.
Nice. Yeah, just I know that after the first book, like putting out the first book and trying to learn the author ins and outs by myself. Oh my God, I was just like, when am I supposed to write again? I got this book out. And now I also understand Naked Lunch. Anybody familiar with Naked Lunch?
Good book.
Isn't that just like
basically about how it's kind of sort of like writing a book is like being in a bad relationship. It really is. It's like, it starts off all fun and games. It's like, oh, look, we're doing all these things. And by the end, you're like, I just want you to be gone.
Okay, when you said Naked Lunch, I just pictured you naked eating a sandwich with like lettuce sticking out at the end, and like some mayo and mustard or something. It's like just on the couch watching a TV show.
No.
No, okay, sorry.
I don't think that you.
I eat naked. We all eat naked, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's naked.
Oh yeah, I have.
Same.
It's not like something I do every day, but you know, it's not like
it's not weird.
Yeah, we're grown-ups. We can do that.
But I also live in my parents' house right now again, so that's always fun. Yeah. Not so much. Hi, Gabriel.
Quick comment from the chat room. We have Avril Sabine, which says, I write between several series so I don't get bored with any particular series and look forward to returning to each of them. And I think she writes what is it called? The Round Table. I think that's what it's called.
So, the one with a spider on the cover, like the girl and the spider, I want to say.
No.
I think it's that KT Hannah I'm thinking of. I don't know. There's so many, man. So many books.
Yeah, she's an author too, though, so she definitely knows what she's doing. So she's probably written more than all of us.
Yeah, I believe so.
Is she in the romance? Is she romance?
Oh, that says Guardians of the Round Table. That's what she writes. She writes with some co-authors for that particular LitRPG series.
That's right. I remember that one. That's like the Portal. It's Portal fiction, I want to say.
It's Portal fiction where they're like sucked into a video game, but like no time passes or very little time passes in the real world. But their game powers don't transfer to the world with them, and it's a bunch of like teenage kids who are like essentially like a little cartridge game in there. And then they go on these adventures, and they find out like there's some real world connection between the game world and the real world. Like as they beat villains in the game world, and they level up and stuff, like real positive effects happen in the real world. And there's an opposing force who's trying to do the opposite and mess up the real world by doing bad things in the game world. So it has a very interesting premise. And I think she's on her 4th or 5th book by now.
I feel like I remember seeing this when I was big. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, sorry, I'm like, Jesus Christ, look at all these books she's written.
Yeah. Long titles.
I was going to ask her, do you remember the series Guardians of the Flame by Joel Rosenberg?
Yeah.
Is it Joel Rosenberg I'm thinking? Or no, not Guardians of the Flame. The other one. Oh, fuck. Crag Keep and stuff. You know, D&D players get sent back in time, like a 70s. This is a 70s series.
It could be Guardians of the Flame that you're talking about. That it's an older series of books. Yeah.
I want to say it's Guardians. Okay, Guardians of the Flame. That's what I keep on thinking of when I saw that Guardians of the Round Table was like the group of it's Guardians of the
Sleeping Dragon, the Silver Crown, Sword of the Chain. Yeah. They just recently did a bunch of recovers for that series.
Yeah, that's a good series. Hey, there we go. Here's a good one. What's your guys' favorite book or book series? And then you can't cop out and say, oh, I love everything, because, you know, we all love everything. But one book or book series is your favorite?
Let's start off with Falcon. Falcon looks like he's the most intensely thinking.
It's like, no!
So I'm going to have to make a very, very awful confession to you guys.
I don't read.
You're illiterate?
I haven't read any lit RPG or anything in the last year and a half.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
No,
it could be
we're
older
talking
stuff.
about Lifetime. We're talking about Lifetime here.
Forever.
Oh,
Ever.
okay. I've been drowning in translated novels is the main reason.
That's good. Yeah.
I'd have to say the series that really just caught my eye, even though it was super long and I almost burned myself out reading it, but it was so good, is Superpowered by Drew Hayes.
That's a good series.
Good. I actually like the NPC series by the same author a little bit more, but I'm more into obviously LitRPG than I am Superpowers.
Yeah, but it was such a long book, but it was so good.
Oh, Xanth?
I know what it is. Oh,
yeah,
God.
we have a couple comments from the chat room saying Eric Round said Xanth for me. Either that or Robin Asprin's The Mix series.
Oh my God. If you
books.
haven't read those, if you haven't read Xanth, it's great. But if you haven't read Robert Asprin's Myth series, hilarious. Like, so funny. So funny.
I missed.
Yeah, I've never read Xanth, and I really wanted to. Especially, that's Piers Anthony, right?
Yeah, it's so long. There's like 50 million books.
Hold on a second. Somebody's at my front door. Hold on 1 second. Be right back.
Oh, here's a cool bit of trivia for you. So Piers Anthony's The Xanth series. It's based in like Florida and like the U.S. and you can like the books. You can like map out places and go visit them and stuff. It's kind of neat.
No, didn't know that.
Cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
And next for Taj. Taj, what is your favorite series? That was the question, I think, right?
Or book.
I don't know. Okay, so God, because until Rathweg stopped writing, it might have been The Name of the Wind, just because God, that guy can write. But
I like book 1. I couldn't get into book 2, but book 1 was really good.
You mind repeating that? I didn't hear you.
Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind.
Never read it.
The Name of the Wind.
There you go. And it's actually being made into a television series, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
But other than that, I'd probably have to say, Sword of Truth. That series was really fun for me because it was Zed, man. Zed made that series for me.
Zed is fun. Zed is. Yeah.
The TV show killed that whole thing, man.
7,000 reviews. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
MTV.
MTV, I saw that TV series and it's like, oh, how could you do this to this good story? You monsters. Yeah.
But of course, there's all these all-time favorites like Wheel of Time. What's his name? Oh God! And because I haven't been reading any of my normal fantasy fare, the Demon Rift saga. Raymond Feist. Yes. Oh, but I have to say my all-time favorite author is Robert Heinlein. I love Robert Heinlein. So.
Stormtroopers. I like that one. That was always good. A lot of Robert Heinlein stuff is his later works get really interesting. I will say, like he gets like these projections of like polyamorous relationships and like live for forever.
Transland, man.
Yeah, he does a lot of like. Yeah, he does a lot of interesting things with the relationship and projecting them and into the future, like hundreds and hundreds of years. Like humanity's lifespan is different. We live for thousands of years, so yeah, social customs should change. But I always liked him for those reasons, in addition to like his good sci-fi stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Like one of my favorite things I try to explain to people is there's a scene in a book called Time Enough for Love. Where he's actually like that whole series starts off, the whole Lazarus Long series starts off with him being, like from a group or family that is extremely long lived. They all live like 1,000 years or whatever. He winds up being the longest lived individual in the universe. He goes back in time to fight in World War I, comes back to the United States, meets his father and mother. And there are these like subtle clues that his mom is like coming on to him, and I'm reading this book like, no, that's not normal, that's not happening, I'm just seeing weird stuff in my peripheral. Then all of a sudden it gets down to it, and he actually writes the scene where they get busy, and I'm just like.
And did you find this in like your school library?
No.
Okay.
No, this is dollar store paperback. Like when you go into the what you call it, the bookstore, and they have like the dollar bin, I would just pick out the books without the covers and buy like 5 or 6 of them and then sit in the house and read all day long. Like, yeah, this is my thing. But to be able to write that scene, and not have you feel completely disgusted was an amazing, masterful stroke of writing that I'm just like, people just don't get it.
Take that, Back to the Future.
Futurama.
It was pretty much just Oedipus, man. Like it's go and kill his dad, sleep with his mom, Greek tragedy shit. Like we all do the same. It's all the same tropes over, right? Hero's journey, we all do the same story, different versions, right?
Definitely.
Well, when they say going back to the beginning, they don't mean to your mother's bit.
They do, man. That's what it is. That's why it's like these are why they're like repeated tropes in literature over every like generations and generations. Somebody writes this amazing story and it's some dude sleeping with his mom. Like it always ends up some dude sleeping with his mom.
No, hold up. I
don't think that happens very often if I think about
Not
it.
Not me either. Or it's Old Boy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
No, I definitely agree that there's nothing.
On that too. Has the whole Electra thing going on too.
Yeah, there's nothing really new.
One of my favorite movies.
I have a couple comments from the chat room for favorite series and stories. We have Jaron Frostwind says Stormlight. I'm not familiar with what that series is, to be honest. Stormlight.
Is that Brandon Sanderson?
Oh, it might be. You're right. I think I've seen the cover of that before. Yeah.
The color magic.
Gabriel Sabine says, I have a soft spot for fairy tales since they're what I was reading when I realized I wanted to be author when I was a child. And that was Gabriel Sabine. She says, fairy tales. Oh my God, you need to read Stormlight. Okay, thanks, Sharon. Yuri Bruce says, Philip K. Dick, one of my all-time favorites. Really good stuff, of course. Ever also says, she says, Faust, Eddings, Wirt, McCaffrey were some of the authors I read in my teens. And so
and McCaffrey, definitely.
Yeah.
Dragon Riders.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that. Let's see. What else we have? Starlight, Sanderson, and a few other things. So there you go. Next is going to be Rathweg. Did you already go for? Did you already go? I can't remember. Did you already say your favorite authors or your favorite series?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Do you remember Sanderson also he did Mistborn too, right? The Mistborn?
Yeah.
Yep. That was really good.
The way he did like the metal magic on it was so cool. How like I don't know, just how they fly with the magnets. I'm like, this is he was really
power of iron, power of lead.
Tin would give you sight, So yeah.
Like
that was a great one.
At the risk of sounding sexist, like I don't usually get into like main characters as the females because like I always try to picture myself as a main character. And so it's got to be like really good writing to get into.
You can't picture yourself as a pretty woman.
I can picture myself with many pretty women. It's just hard to get like my mind as like to become. I like to become the main character. Like there's a few like Robin Hobb. Like if you read the what are those the Assassins Apprentice series, those are really good. I like that. And then she has a couple other ones, but yeah, great book.
Mistborn, I got it to share, but I just I don't have all my stuff up, but I have a couple of books here that
Wayward Bard, that one's good.
Bard, yeah.
And then there's this guy in the chat who loved this one.
Oh yeah, Eric Round's Couch Potato Chaos. Quite the nice book.
Those are like the only 3 books I have in my living room that are mine.
I think it's my turn to talk about stories I like. My absolute 2 favorite series that aren't. I'm going to go with not LitRPG. That's what I read and review every single week, and I have tons of stuff on that on the LitRPG podcast website. So I'm going to go with non-LitRPG story just to make it fair. My 2 favorite series are definitely going to be the Dresden Files and the Iron Druid series, the Iron Druid stories. Those are both my 2 favorite. Like I will drop whatever I'm doing when a new book comes out, and I'll buy it or get the audiobooks for all of them, and I'll just listen to them. Yeah, they're all Iron Druid by Kevin Hearn. And like those are just top notch for me stories, especially the audiobook versions of them, because I would re-listen to those stories again and again and again while I was working like crappy jobs, doing like 3 or 4 hour drives each way to and from work, and so I'm like, they have a special place in my heart.
Did you watch the sci-fi series, the Dresden Files?
Yeah, I liked it. I really did. It was really good. Yeah. I think they're rethinking about making a new one, to be honest. So I'm like, we'll see how that turns out. But yeah.
Oh, I want to say 2 books that aren't LitRPG: Princess Bride, favorite, and then Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Those are my two favorite books.
Good stuff. The author of Princess Bride just died not too long ago.
Yeah, William Coleman, man.
That was sad.
Rip.
But what you call it? Yeah, the Color of Magic series. Oh my god.
I was always hoping one of the colors would be brown, and I could like see myself in that story for once. But yeah.
I actually have never read the Color of Magic or the Discworld series. I watched the movies though.
Yeah, if you like the movies,
yeah,
you'll love the books. The books are like infinitely better than that.
The movies are surprisingly of any like story to television show or movies I've ever seen. Like the Discworld books come out the best, I think. And that's usually pretty where like they get like the essence of the story in addition to like the story plot lines, and because they're so beloved and they're so weird that a lot of that is easy to translate to like television sometimes.
And I feel like Discworld, like, or not just Discworld, but like the series is just great in general. But like I think like British sarcasm, British humor really translates well on paper. Like when you read it, like when you read it, yeah, like the dry wit, it just translates better when you read it. But for some reason, like this one's great. The series is great too. But man, I love that.
I always chuckle at my Doctor Who books. That's true.
Yeah, and the what's called. And I just said it. I just said the name of the series.
Doctor Who.
Color of Magic.
No, not the Color of Magic. It was something else. Oh,
Robert Heinlein.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great look.
Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide. Hey, look, Eric Rounds answered the same question. Like, I was listening to you, Tajel. I was paying attention. It's the Hitchhiker's Guide.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. You're amazing. You're totally amazing.
You guys know Harry Harrison?
Did I ever read him?
Harry Harrison.
Is that the author or the book name?
The author. Like okay, he wrote a series called like Stainless Steel Rad. He wrote a series called like Into Darkness, where it's like alternate history, World War I and II, but like fantasy with like dragons and like tanks are like giant rhinoceros and stuff. He's really cool. He's a pretty famous guy. And
I'm looking him up. He has a bunch. Yeah, I'm actually looking at a few of them right now on Amazon as you're speaking. I haven't read any of that. Is he the one that's inspired you for your alternate history stuff?
He's one of them. Because he does this thing where do you remember the language Esperanto? Do you guys remember that? He used that. He used Esperanto as a language in his book. I thought was pretty interesting. Like in the space series, the Stainless Steel Rad series, I thought that was pretty ingenious.
My favorite alternate history writer is definitely going to be Harry Turtledove. His stuff is I think his stuff is really top notch. I think he has
Into Darkness, Harry Turtledove. That's my bad.
No,
my bad.
Oh, okay. Well, see, there you go. We both agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he does a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh my god. I'm just looking at it right now. I'm like, that's a lot of stuff for alt history. Like that's his thing.
Yeah, he's great. Oh, there's that William Forstchen too. He does this like Lost Company series that's really good. Like a Civil War company goes back in time. It's pretty cool into like this alien world where like these giant monster Genghis Khan type writers take over. It's really cool. Check that out. That's a really good series. The Lost Regiment, I want to say. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm getting some new reads. Some more things that'll keep me away from writing. Just what I need. Death in the movies. What's Death in the movies?
Death, the character in Discworld, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
So we did books, games. Anybody playing any games right now?
Yes.
Slime Dungeon? Is that
besides my game.
Oh, okay.
I was playing Tekken last night.
You have to hold that a little bit closer. I can't see what you're playing. Is that Pokemon? Oh, Rayman. Is that what you're playing?
Rayman is a good one.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
I was absolutely going to bust your balls if you're playing Pokemon Go or Pokemon Let's
Smash
Go.
Brothers.
Yeah. Smash is fun.
Yeah, Smash is nice.
I got lots of comments from the chat room here. We got ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, Danganronpa, Red Dead 2. I thought it was pretty popular. Red Dead Redemption 2, Fallout 76. We have Neverwinter Nights, Monster Hunter, and Ark. Avril is playing a lot of games.
How does Avril have so much time to write all these books and play all these games? What the heck, man?
I think she's calling your research.
Which you should. Oh my God, I will watch this amazing 20-minute documentary on Dead Space yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Where the creator was sitting there talking about how he wanted to make a game that was completely different. And the scene where the tentacle comes out and snakes you around, he basically had to redo all of the animations for the whole game. It was crazy. If I can find it, I'll link it up, but it was great.
Yeah, it's such a fun game. It did space survival horror better than anybody else, I think. Even since then, yeah.
You know, let's talk about that for a moment, because we're moving into 2019, and a lot of the great game studios that we grew up with are now in a downward trend. So let's try to call up some of those great games from, let's call it the early 2000s, the golden age of games, really.
Well, I don't know if it's the golden age, but it is an age.
That's kind of opinionated there. Golden age of games. Yeah.
I mean, hey, I was born '94, so that's my golden age at least.
Okay, that's a fair statement. Yeah.
I was 13 when you were born, man. I've been playing games for 8 years already, bro.
like I was macking out on Pitfall on the 2600, man. Like,
my first thing was the Game Boy Color, so.
Do you remember
playing yellow? That was my
back in my day. Game Boys didn't have color.
Back in my day, a Game Boy was me drawing chalk on the sidewalk.
Do you remember the first game where you could have a save on Nintendo? You remember River City Ransom?
I don't recall that. No.
Oh God, man, that was like
a fighting game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a side-scrolling fighting game, and you had one save.
Fury kind of.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Nope. Man, that's old. I'm old. Attack of the Mutant Camels on Commodore 64.
No.
What?
Commodore 64 has some good games.
Yeah, Avril on the chat room says, Avril says, I was born in 1974, so my first game was Attack on the Mutant Camels on Commodore 64, so she beats us all. She looks amazing in her profile pic. So whatever you're using, share the secret, love. Yeah.
You know, if I shave, I'll look young. I was born 75. Definitely not as pretty as Avril, though. I don't think I'll ever be as pretty as Avril. No, it's just not going to happen.
No, I'm sorry. You got to shave first.
But even still, I still won't be that pretty. Like if you like women and there's a guy shaved and there's a woman that's not, yeah, she's going to win. It's just the way that nature works, I guess. I
don't know, man. I've met some people in my life who really scared the crap out of me when I figured out they were not a woman.
Yeah, I've had that happen in my life too. I live in Philadelphia. I've never had the surprise after the night at the bar, though, thank God. But I have had people come up and be really friendly and and duck their chin and hide their hands, and stuff. And then it's just like, wait a minute.
Like, we're all looking for love. It's, No,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a shock.
I mean, I'm not going to stop anybody from doing their thing. It's just not my thing.
Right. Okay, that's fair.
Politely refuse.
So classic video game favorite. So what's your favorite classic video game? We have one from Tajal, I think. You mentioned one. Was there different ones, a favorite of yours, or not just the first save game you had?
It's one of my favorites, but I think one of my favorite game, Sid Meier's Pirates. Do you remember that? Like the original was on, I think it was on Amiga. Like you had a ship and you could sail around the Caribbean and tag different ships, little ships. Yeah,
little pixels.
Towns. That's a good game. Sid Meier's Pirates, man.
Okay, love perfect. That. There's one from Gabriel. Taj, you have a favorite?
Myst. Myst was like my first real, like, I'm sitting in front of the computer for hours and my parents got to tell me to go to bed. Yeah.
I remember when Myst used to be like the highest end looking game ever because they had like semi-photorealistic like things, and it was really just static images and like little things you could touch. And it's like, but it's still like the best looking game ever for the PC.
Yeah, but like I still have not finished so many games at this point in time.
I never finished Myst. I got like halfway through. I'm like, okay, I'm just stuck, and
I got 3/4, and it's just like, I didn't want to buy the guy.
It came with a notepad, man. Ugh.
That's all you needed for some video games. You had to make your own maps, folks. That's right. For the people in the audience who are not as old as us, apparently, there used to be like video game that used to give you books with the answers to the video games because there was no internet. And so you had
the cheat books back in the day.
Strategy guide,
or you had to go and buy the cheat book.
Yes, or you just had to play and talk to your friends about it. Heaven forbid.
I still have my collection of that.
I lived in the hood. I was the only one with a computer. I was lucky my dad was a teacher, so I got, special perks of, school system stuff.
Nice computer with all the C code you could write in to find the file names. And I once got a secondhand computer from my uncle who was an engineer, and for some reason I found out like how to like pull up file names, and I found all the secret stashes of his adult games that he had left in there by accident. So I was like, oh, okay, they're fun. Like that's my introduction to computers, and like coding a little bit.
Still have many of the game books.
Yeah. And okay, so next one, Falcon. Falcon, what's your favorite classic game?
Okay, this takes me back to when my dad was a lot younger, and he was doing
back to the 90s.
Video games. This was back in the late 90s, where back in the day you couldn't make a phone call and use the internet at the same time. You guys remember that?
When the rest of us were graduating high school, go on.
Yeah, so my dad had Windows 95. Those big old monitors, and like it sounds like this computer's screaming when it turns on.
Bro, you act like that's like the ancient history. That's like 17 for most of us.
So, let him alone. What was your game, man?
Leave me alone, man. Come on. Just because I'm younger than everybody.
What was the name of your game, buddy?
Yeah. So he played two games. He played the original Neverwinter Nights, and he played Warzone 2100.
Wait, what's the second one?
Warzone 2100.
Was that with the tanks?
Yeah.
Was it like the fake 3D? Wait, I gotta look up the videos because I think I know what this is.
Yeah, Warzone 2100.
Yep. I still have the discs for that game, and they still work, but the very last levels are corrupted, so I've never been able to beat it.
Oh, you poor thing.
It crashes. Neverwinter Nights just got re-released on Steam, though, so
yeah, that's a fun game.
Not a really pretty game. Like, they literally just reused everything without improving anything, but it's still exactly what I remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, Neverwinter Nights used to be like the epitome of
BioWare.
Of PC gaming, like of D&D and like BioWare's gem. I remember all the mods you could get for it and create your own game modules for it. They give you a bunch of creative control over like making your own stuff. I loved it for that.
Yeah, BioWare was a great company until it was bought out.
Who owns them now?
Who owns BioWare?
It's Activision.
Activision owns everybody, probably.
Yeah.
That's why gaming is going downhill.
Yeah.
Activision and
Blizzard,
Bungie, but just split up.
Those
companies though. So Bungie is taking Destiny and doing its own thing now with it. BioWare is owned by Electronic Arts. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
there's one or the other. Yeah.
The good game's going to die.
Yeah.
So let's go back to dial-up. So that's like 95, 96. So you guys remember that? So did everybody use AOL at that time period?
Yeah. That's why.
That was free internet for a month. All you needed was a new disc.
So this
every 3 weeks.
I'm kind of segueing into a story here. So like, who played Warcraft 2? Not like Warcraft 2. Like, anybody play RTSs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You played all the Warcraft games.
I played
all the StarCraft games too. Yeah.
So AOL had a thing where you could play online in like 95. You could actually dial up and play against somebody else online on dial-up.
With the Blizzard system, yeah.
Do you remember how much that cost?
I want to say it was like $15 or something, wasn't it?
It was like $4.99 a minute.
Oh, geez.
Like a minute.
A minute.
Because I only lasted for 3 minutes, I think, which is we complain to my wife, but that's separate.
So you play games, it'd be like $50.
Love roller coaster time, dude.
Yeah, man. I freaking ran up like a $500 phone bill like the first month doing that, not realizing. I was like, oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
Your parents came back to you with the belt in their hands. $500. Huh? That's how we're going to work this out.
Yeah, I was not going to play that for a while. Man, that could
LAN parties. Oh my God,
LAN parties.
LAN parties.
But folks, you have joined the Old Man in the Computer Age podcast here. We have folks in the audience who are talking about their LAN parties. I recall that Miss Pac-Man was his best game. Retro Roller Coaster Tycoon. All kinds of fun stuff, folks.
Do you guys remember we used to be able to split the TV into the 4 quadrants?
Yeah.
Oh, for like Halo?
Yeah.
Halo, not only Halo, but like Mario Kart and
all those screen
Call of Duty, Medal of Honor.
GoldenEye.
You know, I really want to figure out what's your favorite all-time cabinet video game.
Ooh.
Like,
that's not my era, man.
I'm curious, like, if Falcon has ever played a cabinet video game. If he played an arcade game.
Oh, Galactica.
Galactica?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That
That's
passes.
the one where you're at the bottom and, you know.
Played that at Chuck E. Cheese's.
Hey, Ray.
Chuck E. Cheese?
Hey, Ray.
Ray Johnson in the chat room says, hello to everybody. What's up? Ray Johnson is the host of the LitRPG audiobook podcast, which I produce, I should say. So it's a LitRPG podcast for audiobooks. So hey, Ray.
Okay.
Hey, Ray.
Cabinet games: Simpsons, The Avengers, The X-Men, and you have 4 people. Remember, you could have 4 people play at the same time.
Yeah. And was it Golden Axe?
That was 2. Oh, 4?
Do you remember Golden Axe? You could play 4 on Golden Axe.
Golden Axe, yes, for the 64.
Gauntlet.
Horrible.
No. This was in well, maybe for the 64, but in the arcade, you could actually have all 4 fighters at once.
Right.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
My favorite's probably going to be Ninja Turtles. And I always like the X-Men. The X-Men was really fun because again, you could have some players all swim at the same time. I think I liked I can't remember. Could you do friendly fire on the X-Men? Like you could kill, or maybe that was the Simpsons. I can't remember. But otherwise, I was like killing my opponents, my friends.
You got to do it.
Yeah. So there you go. My favorite cabinet games.
Nice.
I used to love Space Harrier.
Oh, that was a cool one.
Top Gun. Like flight simulators. I used to love flight simulators. And then of course fighting games. Like I'm still a big Tekken fan. My kids, so my son just got Tekken 7 like a week and a half ago. He's been practicing up. He comes over and is like, yeah, Dad, I'm ready for you because I'm like the Tekken master. Because, you know, no matter how much they change the combinations, even there's certain patterns that, you know, every character gets. Once you get, you know, those patterns, you're like, all right, I'm ready for you. And basically just wound up like best like 5 out of 10 or whatever. And it's like, I just perfected him like 3 times. And he's just like, I hate you. I'm like, it's okay. I love you. So, you know, it just kills up.
Is anybody playing any MMOs now or looking into any MMOs? I'm thinking about getting one.
You know, I'm just not a big MMO guy. I could never get into it. I played the Neverwinter MMO, and it was interesting, but like the time needed to be good at it was not the same as if I played a single player and finish the game and feel like a god, right?
Mm. You know, the only MMO that I'm looking forward to right now is Ashes of Creation.
Yeah. When does that come out?
You know, I have no idea.
Which one?
Ashes of Creation. It's a really open world, and it just seems like... So I've never played MMO before, so I've never played like Warcraft or anything like that, which is like saying to most people I talk to, yeah. So I really want to play an MMO. I need to. So Ashes of Creation is probably going to disappear for like 3 months.
Wow, they did a Kickstarter for that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good.
I want to pick one up. I need to get into one. It's been a while, and we're freaking writing in the genre. It's been so long since I played one, you know? It's like I got to get... it's been so long since I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
No. Like, I want to pick up Terraria again, too.
I feel
like Ashes of Creation has had, like, multiple release dates that they haven't met for the full game.
Yes.
So, yeah. That's the issue. I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh no, August of 2018, October. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
It looks really cool. The creation, the class system is really cool on it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty interested in that.
But as far as MMOs, I've played a ton of MMOs, not as much anymore because they do, like Falcon said, they require a ton of time to like invest into levels and clans and everything. I'm more of a single player kind of campaign guy, but I've played too many to remember, to be honest. I used to, my entire teenage years was playing MMOs on my computer all the time and passing classes barely. But most recent ones I probably played are Neverwinter Online. I thought about playing Fallout 76, just haven't purchased it because again, no time. I'm writing books and reading them mostly. But nothing really has been catching my interest for like a really long time because like after a while, it's just like the same thing. It's like, oh, it's a bunch of grinding, it's a bunch of questing, and the stories are just like not super amazing. So unless you have a bunch of friends that you play with on a regular basis, I have a better storyline with like single player campaigns.
See, I want to find, like, I'm waiting because I think Ashes of the Creation, you can like go somewhere, it's so open ended, you can build yourself a base with friends, you know, kind of like an arc, but there's more to it. I think like I really wanted to get into a game like that.
Yeah. Also, for me, LitRPG is just so much better than any MMO. It's like for me, LitRPG has replaced all the things. It represents all the stuff I wish MMOs were and VR games and all that other stuff. So that's probably part of it for me as well.
Because VR MMOs are completely different from MMOs, and it's like we're all just like waiting for that day where we can dive into like a gel bath and be like, "Take me away."
Oh, did you? Okay, this is totally not. This isn't off topic, but it's kind of on topic. Did you hear Elon Musk announced like he's like months away from releasing his neural net?
I'm sure he says that about a lot of things, like months and months away from the hover car and from the tunneling under the earth to make things. And he's a big dreamer, and we'll see how that turns out. I have a couple comments from the chat room for games and MMOs they played. We have AOE was one, and AOE 2. We have also from Avril ESO, Elder Scrolls Online. She says she plays RuneScape Classic sometimes, which was a very fun game. It's the end. AOE. So there are a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, Elon Musk and his neural net. We hope that's true. We all know it's probably not though.
Well, okay, so he did the tunnel, like the mile underground for 10 million, which is like 90 million under budget. I mean, I don't know. He's got the rocket, the Falcon rocket did its like landing stuff. It's doing well.
Yeah, they only fail and crash a few times out.
You gotta break a few things, man. Just saying.
I'm just saying, like, I don't want to be one of those broken things with the neural net in my brain yet.
Well, that would be a great story.
What can we think?
Like, I was one of the first beta testers. I've been stuck in the black space.
Yeah. Okay, here's a question. So they go, hey, we're beta testing the neural net for this full immersion MMO. Are you in?
Do I get paid?
No.
I'm gonna.
Can I write a story about it afterwards?
I would probably say yes personally. I would like yes. I'm always one of the guys that if it's proven at least moderately safe, I'll probably go in for the full brain implant for virtual reality for full immersion. I would totally go Matrix style like implants and everything.
It's not proven safe. You're the first test. It's like you're gonna go first. Hey, you're gonna go first. We'll give it to you for free. You're in? You're in?
I would probably be in. Yeah.
How about you, Jeff?
Whoa.
Gonna be China.
To be some life insurance on
No
that.
insurance, man. No, nothing. You're in or you're out. It's just it. Hey,
no way, man.
So
if I'm a provider for my family, I need to have some insurance in case you brain dead me.
Falcon's a no, I guess. I'm a yes. Taj, what do you think, man? Would you be a yes or a no if you got a alpha spot on the brain interface thing?
Okay, so here's my little caveat. If it has like any type of battery powered things that go in your head, I would probably say no. But if it's just like metal wires that link up to certain areas of your brain and they stick a probe in and they, read that information, I'd probably be okay with it. And the only reason for that is because I have a severe fear of electromagnetic pulses.
You'd kind of be under though, so you wouldn't even know. But you don't know.
No. But you know, like somebody sets off a dirty bomb. You know what I mean? It's like the electromagnetic energy is just going to, and it's going to fry inside of my brain, and that is.
So Taj is yes, with the caveat that there's no connected battery system. Okay, that's fair. What about you, Gabriel?
Oh, I'm in, man. I mean, I write about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm in. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. I mean,
okay. Well, there you go.
You know, they did something else before. They have like mice and monkeys and stuff. You know, so hey, let's go.
I feel like he's thought about this a lot more than the rest of us. But we have a couple answers from chat room as well.
Ray's hilarious.
Ray says, no way I would go after they work out the comas and the deaths. Ray Johnson says you end up like the MC in Domino Finn's Afterlife, don't beta. Eric Round says, yeah, I'd probably do it. I need a computer in my brain. Avril says, hell no, someone else can be a guinea pig, smiley face. And Ray says, I work in IT. Shit never works the first time. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Eric's going to be playing Super Mario with his brain chip. Man, come on, go to the ATMs, Eric. At least hit the ATMs.
Oh, like what would you do with Techno Mage powers? Basically, like he would play video games, and you'd go to the ATM like, my money, just give it to me.
Oh no, if I had Techno Mage powers, I would just basically start moving stuff out of people's accounts. You know, putting it into Bitcoin.
Okay, there you go.
No one will ever find it.
It'll just premise for your techno thriller where your main character levels up his Techno Mage powers. What does he do with his real life RPG powers? So there you
go. Techno Mage or Elemental Mage? Who would you rather be?
Techno Mage, because we live in a technological world.
Yeah, definitely has to be Techno Mage. I mean, a suit of armor. You could be a Gundam as a Techno Mage.
What would your weakness be, though, as a Techno Mage?
Sleep.
Unreliable internet, water.
Magnets.
You know, electromagnetic pulses. I hear those are bad things.
Computer virus. You like malware.
Oh God, these
pop-up, folks.
Yeah.
That's what I get for using my brother's computer. Ah.
Who's playing with Techno Mage?
That would be hilarious. The story of a Techno Mage whose brother uses his computer to like go look at happy pictures. He gets it all malwared up right before his big project. And next thing you know, he's like stuck with these really glitchy Techno Mage powers. Like he'll try to grab something, but as he does so, a pop-up will appear and it says, "You can last for hours."
Even worse. What if it turns him into the accidental pervert? He starts walking around and you hear, for $2.99 a minute, you can.
He just walks into a classroom. Next thing you know, the projector kicks on, and it's like, you can call us at 18-year-old chatbook.
Everybody turns around to look at you, and you're like,
it wasn't me. It's the malware.
Oh. Have you guys all watched Black Mirror?
I've seen a few episodes.
I've heard about it, but I've never seen it.
You should definitely watch it.
How do you feel about that whole like hacking your brain kind of thing? Like they're all variations of basically they screw with you in the techno world. They put the brain thing on or whatever, blah blah blah.
Right, that's basically variation.
Are we talking about a specific episode or overall?
If you look at your computer, your phone, when it's turned on, it's a Black Mirror. And so that's what it's based on. It's technology and the twist that it can do. My favorite episode that I've seen is definitely the Star Trek ripoff, where like he's making copies of people, their brain scans and putting him into his own private like Star Trek ripoff server, where he's the captain and everybody else is his servant and they have to live there forever under his like control. It's one of like my favorite like sci-fi episodes of anything I've ever seen. It's really fun, interesting, but also gives you that Trekkie vibe.
It gives you a show to watch it.
Somebody mentioned the episode Bandersnatch, which is like the Black Mirror choose your own adventure version.
And
so I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, they're definitely being sued for that one. Netflix is
Yeah.
being sued by the people who own the trademark of Choose Your Own Adventure because that's what they used in their advertising campaign. So I thought that was too.
They should not have done that.
Yeah.
It's funny, like right before I saw that they were getting sued, I was like, dude, I'm gonna write a Choose Your Own Adventure story. I'm gonna do that, and I was like, all set to do it. I'm like, oh, I guess I can't do that.
No, you can't use the
No,
name
but you
Choose
could
Your Own Adventure.
you can do a pick your own pain story though.
Yeah.
Well, so I had this idea because I started writing this new story, and I didn't name the main character. Specifically, I had every character he interacts with not actually name him. So, like, what if I get to a point where you can choose like good or bad and name the character, and I can write 2 variations. If you choose bad, you go this way. If you choose good, you go this way. I was like, that'd be fun. And then do the arches, but I'm like, that's just too much writing.
It's a lot of writing for like your branching pathways of like.
Guys, we put Angel Ramon on the floor.
Oh, call the ambulance. Yeah.
Angel is late. Why are you on the floor, man? You should be in bed.
That's really late for me, right?
Callister is like,
it's late here. I have to leave in about 15 minutes, but
is it daytime behind you, Falcon, that I see in your window there? Oh no, that's the light. Never mind. Sorry.
I was about to say, shoot, at this point it's starting to get dark outside for you too, Ramon.
Oh no, yeah, it actually gets really dark here early, like 5 o'clock-ish. Yeah, 5 o'clock for her.
Yeah, man, it is just nasty out there. I'm at the bottom end, so no rain or snow, but like it's gonna be cloudy for 2 weeks.
what's up, man? How you doing, bro? Welcome, everybody.
Hey, Mr. Carlson.
Cool.
Folks in chat, we get Emmy Carlson, Andrew Ramon is popping in and out. All kinds of nice people in the chat room.
He thought it was drinking with Charles.
Hey, Taj, when are you doing the audio for Ruins of Majesta? Have you done that yet?
So I just got, Tim Markowitz gave me the edits back for Majesta, and I was in the middle of a build and just didn't have time. So I'm going to be starting on the edits for that this week, and hopefully knocking it out this week, getting it to Annalise Rennie, who's going to be doing the book, because she's been waiting for it since the beginning of December. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm just dragging my feet, making myself look bad. Okay.
Okay, so let's explain the process for people who don't know how audiobooks work. You have your regular audiobook, your regular novel, and you want to make it into an audiobook. What process did you go through to find an audiobook narrator? A lot of us use ACX, but you might have used something else.
Actually, I was approached by Annalise, which is kind of nice.
Oh, so she approached you directly?
She read the book and she was like, hey, you want me to do this? And I was like, yes, please.
Perfect.
Like, I was actually not going to do the audiobook for a while until I got a couple of books out, because it's actually kind of cost prohibitive.
Yeah, if you're doing a pay per finished hour, where essentially you're paying the audiobook narrator per hour finished work that they do. So for a 10-hour audiobook, it can be potentially thousands of dollars or 20, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Alternatively, you can do a royalty share split, which means that you're splitting the royalties you get from Audible between the two of you and whatever percentages you guys work out. But I assume you go with
which you're already splitting with Audible. You're already splitting.
She was very kind to me. She was very kind to me. That's all I'm going to say, but she was very kind to me.
That's perfectly fine. I understand that. Did you go with royalty split or paid per finished hour?
Royalty split.
Perfect. And that means you have less of an investment as far as like paying her, and then she's going to just take a percentage of the profit. And that for a lot of authors, that's a really good way to do it. Like you make less more money, obviously, if it does really good, but you have less of a risk as far as like a financial risk in paying somebody to do it, whether you know it's going to succeed or not. And so those are ones. So, but you also mentioned that you did editing on it first.
Yeah. So basically, I'm doing a rebrand for it as well. Got new covers. Because I've realized that the cover just doesn't really attract that many people.
I think it's beautifully artistic, and I personally love the visuals of it. But as far as like attracting readers, yeah, it's a little hard.
Yeah, so I'm redoing that like that, so that's getting redone. So at that point, I'll be coming out with the paperbacks, because I still haven't even done the paperbacks. So I'll be coming out with the paperbacks, the audiobooks, and shortly followed by book 2, and hopefully this 3rd book as well. So I'm just trying to pound away at it all.
How far along on book 2 are you?
Huh?
How far along on book 2?
Wait, I'm about 100,000 words in.
How long is it going to be?
It might be longer than the first one.
Jesus.
That's one of the reasons why the second series is there for me, because like I sit and I pick and I knit, and it's like, I don't like this the way this is going, and and then all of a sudden I come back and it's like to the gray, and it's like, okay, I'll just keep writing this, because that like I said, I feel like I can like slap that one around like she's just a dirty little girl, sometimes you gotta have something. You just get in quick and dirty. It's like that one I'll fix in editing,
Right.
Where Majesta is like, no, this needs to be perfect as I write it. It's
right. So
one of the worst things to do, but I edit while I write Majesta. I just can't help it because I'm always going back and checking, what was that stat? How many pieces of this did they have? Because it's crafting based, so I have to maintain resources.
Do you not like write that down as it goes, or do you just like reference your material?
I do write it down as it goes, but then you start getting to something like, wait, how many spools of thread did she have? Like I have not created a full inventory list, which is one of the reasons I probably need to create a full inventory list.
Excel is wonderful for that kind of stuff. Like you just keep track of it and you just make more and more pages. I have like 20 pages of like inventory list for each chapter. Like each chapter basically you take a snapshot of what happens at the end of that chapter. So if I need to go back and reference something, it's just chapter, like stat pages, inventory, skills, all that good stuff for each character. And it's just pages and pages of Excel sheets.
Yeah, pretty much. And one of the things I do is like sometimes I'll be like, oh, this part didn't get released yet. Let me go ahead and go ahead and add this little fudge on day 10. Oh, and then I can go back to day 11 and make it all happen. So it's nice that way.
Right, definitely. So that's good. So you said you're editing now. So you're redoing the edits to make it cleaner a little bit, and just
for the first book, yeah. So the second book I'm still in progress.
Right. So that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have the two come, because you can use the release of the audiobook to promote book 2. You know what I mean? Yep. And so that can be a nice, especially if you're going to rebrand it. Yeah.
And if I can get it done in time, hopefully I can have Annalise do audiobook 2 as well, and just that way for all the audiobook feeds, they'll be like, oh my God, there's 2 of them, let's do it.
Right. No, that's definitely better for the brand.
Right,
so it should take her like a couple of weeks to a month to actually record it, and then it's another 3 to 4 weeks to actually get Audible to approve it. So as soon as you're done with reading, that audiobook could be out as soon as 2 months.
Yep. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and just pound it out. I also got told by my editor that I have a ellipsis fetish.
An ellipsis fetish. Well, you do have some sexy ellipses.
I know, but see what you did there. But it's funny because I just haven't found any way to pause speech like an ellipsis. Like an ellipsis is like, well, why did you? You did that. You did. And it's like,
you mean a dash? You could use dashes.
I don't like the dashes.
I use M dashes too, but M dashes usually mean that it's like you're adding one quickly. Like, so it reads like, and then we went into the room because we had to go into the room because John was sitting there, so. And
this is a bunch of writer talk. Readers are like, I don't care.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know. He's like, he tells me that it makes my story a bit comic booky, but I'm like, my story is a bit comic booky.
Like, yeah, I don't mind. All of our stories are kind of comic booky. They're very much fantasy wish fulfillment stuff. We have a bunch of superpowers, and we call them game powers. And so, yeah.
Comic booky, video gamey. That's the whole point.
Literally where we're ripping our stuff off from. Yeah. Or, we're inspired by heavily from things. Yeah.
And the thing is, the gray for me is great because it's going to be a lot more adult, which is going to be great. So there'll be some F-bombs in that one.
So we got a couple questions from the chat room. Emmy Carlson says, is cut off, ellipse is a pause for speech. So dash is cut off, ellipse is a pause for speech. I'm probably like the worst person in the world to know any of this stuff. I'm not a really good writer. So I'm like, I use like 3 little dots, and my editor will change that to like an end dash. I'm like, okay, I didn't know what that other thing was, but thanks.
I love the M dash.
There you go. Okay, and let's see. One question for me actually. It says, Bruce says they just looked at Project Alpha, looking for Project Beta, which is a great book name. I'm not using it, but Project Alpha Book 2 is going to be called. Project Beta actually makes more sense, but I didn't come up with it, so I can't use it. But they have the question of, is Armand's sister going to be into the dungeons? I thought about it, in progress, so I might throw her in at some point. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. In the future, maybe we'll have to find out. I don't know yet. So again, if you have questions in the audience for readers or for the authors, feel free to ask them. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer.
I'm reading Eric Rounds' comment. He says, my editor took away all my M dashes and turned them into comments.
Where it's like, comma, and she did this thing, and comma, the continued speech. And I'm like, there's so many ways to write things. I'm finding out. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. There is. That's an amazing thing in and of itself, too. Oh, my God.
Well, there's just like the proper way to write what you're supposed to with right grammar and stuff. And it's how we should do it. But then, I don't know, I write the way I talk and the way I think. And that's how it comes out on paper. So, like, people knock me for my grammar all the time. I'm like, well, it's the way I fucking talk. Like, I think Chuck Palahniuk is the best example, man. He just writes crazy ways, and it works. It's enjoyable. Some people like it, some people don't.
Because holding dialogue to grammar rules, like unless people can't understand what your main character is saying, then you shouldn't worry about it too much, because people speak in a certain fashion.
Yeah.
And that to me just seems to make sense. Like, oh yeah, sometimes you have to go back in and tweak it just to make sure that the understanding of the sentence is clear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but no, like, dialogue is wretched. And just because I think everyone should watch Adam Ruins Everything, his thing about grammar rules. Just look up Adam Ruins Everything grammar. He basically goes back and shows how the words that are like grammatically correct nowadays were actually created by one guy who didn't believe lunch was a word.
I don't mean dialogue. I mean, like, just writing in general. Like, it's basically just the way my mind travels. So it's grammatically incorrect a lot.
I think Gabriel was speaking to me directly because I happened to mention some grammar issues in the last review of The Gamer 2. No.
You and 100 other people, man. You and 100
No, I mentioned it mostly because, like, there are a few places where you're like, your words just weren't the right words. It's just like spell check failed you, basically. And he's like, oh, this is a real word. It's just the right one here. So I was like, okay.
Not even just that. I accidentally I uploaded the copy that I did in Grammarly first. I was like, oh, that's stupid. But no, I'm just talking just even after that, like, just the way my sentence structure and stuff flows, it doesn't flow right. And I don't use commas the right way. I don't do the right grammatic things, and I end sentences with prepositions, and I do all sorts of shit you're not supposed to do. But
and that's okay.
Right. So what's they get from their readers for their stuff? Because I know we all have. I know we have reviews where the common things like, oh, I don't like this about your story, or I don't like this thing about your story. What's each person's like biggest complaint from readers? For me, it's always going to be I write in first person present, and some readers just can't stand that at all in any way, shape, or form. They're like, they were 2 sentences, and they're like, nope, I'm done. See you later. 1-star review. I'm like, sorry. I'm like, okay, that's how I write. I'm not a real writer. I just.
What do you mean you're not a real writer?
I'm not a real writer. I mean, I'm a writer.
You paid to write stories, man. You're a real writer.
Claim that, man. Claim that. You're more of a writer.
Writing is hard for me because I'm a math and science guy, and I wouldn't do creative writing when I was growing up. I didn't do any of it. The first thing I ever wrote creatively was Adventures in Ontario Book 1. That's literally the first thing I wrote. I put it through Grammarly, I put it through like spell check, and had some people beta read it for me, basically. But then I just uploaded it, and so it looks like your first novel that you've ever written, and people just like it, and that's great. But it's also just like, I always admit my limitations because I know what I can do. That's why I hire editors to make my stuff.
Ramon, I have to challenge you now. I have to challenge you to do a project where you write short stories. And I'm only going to say short stories because writing a whole novel is crazy. But write a bunch of short stories from different perspectives. Just challenge yourself.
person perspective story, and the first person past tense story, and the second person tense story. Yeah,
because also keeping track of that tense is like so tensifying. It's like
yeah. So that's my biggest complaint from my readers. Probably the people who try my stuff. It's like, oh, I don't like first person present. I'm just out. So what are your guys' biggest complaints for your stories? Let's start off with Falcon. Is it they don't like purple?
You know, you got 5 things right now, top of your head. You're just waiting to spit them out because we all do. We all do.
Just the majority of people just didn't. I feel because my stories get compared to Dakota's all the time, and the majority of what I see is that Dakota heavily outclasses me in humor. Definitely, I'm not a humor guy. But also in just enjoyability. And, it's hard to get that comparison sometimes, but you know what? He wrote a good book and he's continued to write a good book. But with my book 2, I went away from my original premise and I continued that because I wanted to. And I did it, but a lot of people didn't like it. But I've returned to that with the new book. So
I think that's probably the one I see the most comparison of for the reviews for you is like, oh, it's not really just a dungeon book anymore. He's branched off into these other things like town building and whatever else and adventure, and everything's taking place out of the dungeon. But comparisons, do you always just like, I wrote the dungeon books first? Is that what you say? Yeah.
No, because that feels like a dick move,
No, and the two of you are friends. I want to make this perfectly clear. There's no rivalry between the two of you. The two of you have talked before. You guys have both done booths together at Dragon Con before. So you guys have hung out and you're both super friendly with each other. There's no like rivalry at all.
Not before this video.
I think you guys actually at one point talked about doing a co-author book where it was his dungeon, the Divine Dungeon, versus the Slime Dungeon at some point.
Oh yeah, I wrote a chapter for that, but it never happened. And then he got more successful than me, and I don't think he needed to do it with me anymore.
Yeah, no, he's definitely big. Not that you're like not doing well, but he did a production company. He has a publishing company, and he has like multiple authors who are publishing under his.
Have you looked at his Amazon page? He's a ranked author.
Yeah, he does really well. Like his last book came out, Rise of Rex, and it's almost top 100 right off the bat, and it's still like top 500 even now, like multiple weeks later.
Oh, he kills it. Dakota's killing it.
Yeah.
And we're all happy for him. Dakota's like the nicest dude in the world if you've ever met him in real life. So
he's got a cute baby.
He does, which he put in his book.
We really?
Yeah, he put her name in the book as
This is my thing right now, man. There's so much readership going around. There's so much food for everybody to eat. There's no reason to be jealous of anybody else because there's so many people that are reading. There's no reason to be like, man, your book sucks, mine's better. It's like, no, man, there's so many people reading, they're gonna read yours and mine and his and hers and theirs.
And everyone's gonna read it. Yay!
I think in our genre in general, I think most of the authors aren't jealous of each other. Like my success doesn't take away from someone else's success at all. Like we're all generally concerned about our books doing well when we put them out. Like we're always nervous about like, is this going to be the one that tanks? Is this the one that fails? And they usually do pretty decently, obviously. But there's no like general like I want you to fail because I don't like you.
Well, there is, but it's between two individuals.
Well, no, I mean, like I'm not saying there aren't personality conflicts. I'm saying that there aren't like professional rivalries like, oh, I'm jealous of your success necessarily. It's always like there are other issues obviously in any community, writers or creatives, but I don't think that's really a big one for our community because we're all usually generally super supportive because we all started out really small. And so
now,
I think
you're right for now, but like when we're hitting this point where I know Blaze talks about it on Facebook all the time, and everybody's always talking about it, but we're hitting that saturation point where there's so many writers, and there's so many people in here, and now people are trying to like fish for money and trying to like it's getting kind of sharky. So like we're hitting the point right now where it's about to get saturated with douchebags. That's why I try to keep separate from the whole main section of everything.
I'm not. I can't predict the future. I hope that's never the case.
Yeah, man. Just
where community changes, obviously, but I'm always hopeful and try to promote a good positive attitude in our community. That's all you can really do.
Real quick, Angel's leaving. Have a good one, brother.
Love you, bro.
See ya.
Safe.
Sorry, go ahead.
So there you go. Let's see. Oh, see, now there are people in the audience who are asking, like, who are the rivals? I want the chismosa. I want the gossip.
Bruce says,
you just got to say.
Yeah, we don't need to talk.
What should you read as a new LitRPG fan?
Yes, so there are always great titles to read in LitRPG. What do you guys? I'm always asked the question, like, oh, if I want to introduce LitRPG to my friend, what's the one book that I could recommend for them to read as a new reader, as like the introduction primer to LitRPG? Do you guys have novels that you can think of?
Oh, I'm thinking
for the YA crowd, I usually suggest Awaken Online, because Travis has the younger readers on lock. For somebody who's like a book monster, I'll probably send them the Chatfield. Like, here, go read Emerelia.
There's 11 books there.
I mean, if they wanted to enter Dungeon, then I could recommend mine, Dakota's, Rogue Dungeon, William Aaron. It's easy for Dungeon.
I love Blaze.
I can't say for just general LitRPG.
Definitely Greystone. Oh, and Greystone is finished now? Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah, Greystone.
The ending was so good.
That was a definite final ending. I'll say that. There's definite finality to that, to the Greystone Chronicles written by Dave Wilmarth.
The Russian books are good too.
Yeah, I'd always actually like Way of the Shaman Book 1, specifically just the book 1, as like a really good introduction. Like the rest of the books are really nice, I'm saying, but book 1 is the easiest introduction into the game, because it's a very small one person story. Basically, he's in the jail most of the time.
Yep.
And so you get your crafting introduction, get your level stuff, and it's all there, and it's all very gamey. But it's also like a good introduction. Yeah.
Wait, don't spoil what, Eric?
And he does other things. So yeah, but it's nice. So it's Way of the Shaman for me, probably for one of the good introductions. I mean, without saying my own stuff, because I've kind of crafted it to be very good on the introduction side, but that's a bias, obviously. So what about you, Gabriel?
So I'm probably gonna get a little bit of hate for this, but when I read Ready Player One, is what made me start looking for LitRPG, because I read Ready Player One 15 when it came out, whenever it came out, like 10 years ago, like about 10 years ago. And then Ultra World, was that the first one? I want to say that the first Russian one.
Ultra World, Play to Live.
When I remember LitRPG, well, before LitRPG, because Alaron was the one who gathered everybody together for that. It was Ultra World. It was Bathrobe Night. It was
those two were the first two.
It was the Dragon. What was it? The Dragon's Wrath.
Dragon's Wrath.
Where is that guy? Like, I'm worried about Brent Roth, man.
He just put out his new book. He just put a new book out.
What?
Really?
He just put out the new book.
What?
Daniel Black?
No, not him.
No.
Daniel Black.
You've had
Daniel Black put out.
I'm about to hang up. I did read the new Daniel Black, but no, Brent Roth, who did Dragon's Wrath. There's like 3 books.
Yeah.
His books are gone. Also,
It's a contestant. A lot of us think he might have passed away, so that's why he's not continuing the story. But that's rumor as far as I know.
But you know what? We would, as a community, I'm pretty sure we would continue to keep pushing those books to make sure they kept selling if somebody stood up for them.
I did a discussion with another author who was here on the podcast. We did a spoiler review of his novel, and our question was like, who would you pick to continue writing Dragon's Wrath series? And I was like, I forgot the name of the author now. Ugland, it was his name. His last name. He does the Good Guy series. I was like, oh, Ugland would be good. His writing style and like his world building is very similar to what Dragon's Wrath is. So I'm like, oh, he would be a really good choice. What about you guys? Who would you pick to continue Dragon's Wrath?
I can't remember. Can you give me a synopsis real quick? It's been so.
Sure, Dragon's Wrath is.
Eric Ugland just said me.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, man, totally. I picked you out. I was like, Eric Ugland's novels, the Good Guy series, was such a surprise hit with me. Like his covers, they're very 8-bit covers, and and you don't think you think like the story is going to be a little kiddish or something, or like lighthearted, and his stories are very well crafted. He has a lot of good world building, good game mechanics, and I've always spoken very highly of his series in every single one of my reviews, and each story kind of gets better and better for me. And like his attempts to world build and like the depth of his storytelling, like, oh, this is like really good. He always reminded me of Dragon's Wrath in that respect. And like I felt like, oh, he could, if he had access like his notes or something, he could probably do the story justice to continue it on. But that, mind you, that's just my opinion, obviously. But anyone else you guys would pick?
I don't know, man. That's a hard one. It's like one of those things. Like, should I touch it? I don't know. Just oh.
Is that the one where like he had he was sick and he had to he sold his sports car, and like he goes in the game and builds his like into the cold. He like starts in the cold.
He goes to the north.
Where nobody else is.
And he builds a community there. He basically starts off as a regular single-player campaign. He's a part of a beta test for like the latest and greatest virtual reality system. He goes to like this grouping or gathering of beta testers, and then logs into the game, and he chooses like somewhere far off into the north. He eventually gets like this unique power by like doing this like weird challenge and going on top of like the highest mountain ever, and he gets like power, and then eventually
climbing up. Yep.
Builds like this whole community. It's the first that's been done in that game, and he's using it the best advantage to possible. And it's a beloved game because it's a beloved series. Just because the author was one of the first people who did community building. He's the first one who did like that kind of stuff there, and I think it was really something a special place for people.
Actually, that was
God. Some of the raids he pulled, man. Some of the raids he pulled were epic.
Yeah. I'd like to point out, though, you remember back in those early days, it was hard to pick out the just straight lit RPG or game lit from some of the erotic stuff. A lot of it was kind of intermixed back then.
It's still it's still very intermixed in that people who write sexual stories like sex, and it's just in virtual reality, but they think they label it as LitRPG or harem or whatever the case is, and they're not really LitRPG, but those still exist. That all that is still there. To believe me, I look every day, and it's like, oh, I look anyone. We got recommendations from the audience there. We actually have Ray Johnson said he'd recommend VGO by Hunter, Reading Get Online, as his introduction novel for anybody who wants to get into LitRPG. It's a really nice series that actually has a really quick premise in getting people into the game world, and it does a really nice introduction of like, oh, these are my systems in a very intuitive way as well. So that's a good one too.
The Land's good. The Land is good.
Yeah, nobody. I don't think anyone ever just
good. I agree.
It's a good first introduction. What's Cosmo? Remember Cosmo? Cosmo Yaps. What's his?
That's game. Yeah, that's a good one too.
He's another guy from Royal Road.
Yep.
Yeah, he was.
I love it.
Speedrunner was a good intro book too.
Yeah, the game is.
That book two was so different.
Who was Speedrunner? What's his name?
Good night, Ray. I can't remember.
Avril's going.
Oh, Avril's going. Good night, Avril. Avril, before you go, I just need to know: is it Avril or is it Avril? I don't know if she's still here, but
might have just left. Oh, she said
D&D.
Avril, is it? Oh wait, she's still. I don't know if she's still there. She just typed "bye everyone." We'll see.
I want to play D&D.
Oh wait. She says second option.
Do you remember what you said second?
Okay, it's Avril.
Okay, like Levine. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. No, not like Levine at all.
Oh.
She's nothing like a Levine.
I never watched your the gaming ones you did with Charles. How'd those go?
To whom do you speak? Me?
Yeah. You're the. Yeah.
I don't think we ever did any gaming ones. But to answer your question for Speedrunner, is that the Tower of Babel you refer to? Tower of Babel Speedrunner? That's
first book was good.
Yeah, Adam Elliott.
Wait, didn't you and Charles and Blaze do like a gaming session?
Yes, they started it.
Oh, you mean the D&D thing? Like tabletop gaming. Yeah. We did like 3 episodes, and then it kind of fell apart because people's schedules changed and our DM changed a couple times, and not really great for continuous storytelling. But it was fun. That was like the first time I ever got to play like any kind of D&D system.
Which reminds me.
We didn't D&D, we used, what was the other one called? The Fate system, because Blaze Corbin was running it, and he and he was DMing it, and I think the other guys weren't taking it as seriously as they should have. Then we switched over to D&D when Charles Dean took over as the DM. Like, oh, nobody.
You played D&D. You expected the crew to turn into full murder hobos. Like, how can you not expect that? Like, we're going to take it off the rails. Like, I remember one part, Jeff was like riding a motorcycle away from everybody into the darkness.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just going over here. Then like something happened, and he didn't get to be part of that, and then comes back, and it's just like.
And apparently we all never collaborated what our builds were going to be. So we had a bunch of people who weren't. Nobody was like a fighter build. You had a bard. You had me as a mechanic detective. Jeff was like a stunt writer, so he could fight, but he could only fight with his BMX bikes. And so he could like get that first charge in it and get away fast, but that was it. He had no hit points. And like who was it? Charles, I think.
Hi, Ray.
One was like a power. Dakota was a pyromancer, I think, of some kind. But he had like really crappy powers, and he was secretly like a fire starter. Like he loved to fight stars, but he's also a firefighter, so it was nice there. But nobody was a fighter, like so nobody could stand up there and take punches. And so it was a really unbalanced team. I was like, oh, I didn't realize this.
So actually, I'm going to be running a D&D session this coming Thursday. See if it's an experiment, but on the dungeon Facebook group, I'm getting 3 volunteers, and I'm throwing them into the slime dungeon. And I'd like to start a weekly rotation of dungeons from different stories as D&D locations.
That's cool. That's a lot of work, man.
It is. I have a lot of free time now, so.
He's like, I don't have school anymore. I can do all kinds of things.
Well, I have to work and write.
Bro. You need to be writing with most of that free time.
Yeah, but
that money. You're still young. You got to get your money up first. Focus on career, man. Get the writing done.
I published a book last Friday, so at least give me a week.
I feel like Falcon should be on that.
You got more books than me too. I'm like, I'm in my 40s for putting out my first book, so you got me beat. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. This is going to alienate Jeffrey a little bit, but Ramon and Taj will appreciate this question. But like, how? I guess not mad isn't the right word. But like how angry or emotionally responsive or angry does it make you? Like everybody's like, you can't write, you shouldn't write your whole life, you couldn't do that, you should do this, you should do that. Now you're 40, you're 30, whatever. You're like, I just did my first book. I could have done this 20 years ago. What the hell?
You know what?
That's definitely, I think, a loaded question, but I think it's a fair question. So Taj, you want to answer that first?
My biggest regret in life is that I gave way too many fucks about a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have. You know, like if I could go back knowing what I know now, I'd be walking around with like if I could just beam back into my 16-year-old body and people come up, hey buddy, what's going on? That's what's going on. I'm done with you. I got other things to do.
Okay.
I realized that literally all my friends who were like mean and didn't really care and didn't give any fucks, they like, look at the Roots. I used to rhyme with them, literally on South Street.
Yeah.
They're like, well, Jimmy Kimmel's chilling now. I'm like, yeah, I probably should have given a lot less. And it's still hard for me because I'm such a nice guy. I'm like, oh, I'm a nice guy. Just step on me like a doormat, so you know.
Well, I'm going to say that the being nice is not the same as necessarily being. I mean, I understand where you're connecting them. I don't agree that. Yeah,
I was doormatting.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think you meant. But
that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Like, giving
I wasn't reading signs that were there. There were signs there that I should have definitely hit the brakes and turned instead of flying off the cliff.
Right. Okay. That's a fair statement. You wish you could go back and just give fewer F's about what people think. Yeah. For some reason, when I'm on the air, I can't curse when I'm on the air. It's really weird for me because I feel like I'm in charge and I need to be the responsible adult in the room. So it's a thing for me. I don't know. I can do it in real life and my novels, but not on the air apparently.
Oh, come on. Try one. Just try it once. Just let one out.
No, sorry. But for me, in response to Gabriel's direct question, I wasn't one of those people told you couldn't write or you couldn't do this thing because I didn't do it. Remember, I didn't start writing until I was already in my 30s. So I was like, just a couple years ago, like literally in lunch breaks and before and after my 2 full-time jobs, just typing away the computer because I love LitRPG so much. I was already doing the podcast. And I decided, you know what, I can probably write something better than what I'm reading sometimes. And so over the course of the next year, it's just like every day, a couple thousand words. And it's just like a thing that I was putting together and typing on a regular basis. And I have my wife like read every night, like give her a foot massage. So she was my editor. And there's always, it never made sense to me in my brain. Like, why wouldn't I publish this? Even though I had no writing experience, I had no creative writing experience whatsoever. It was literally the first thing that I had done creatively. It never made sense to me because I had already talked to a bunch of LitRPG authors who published, and they told me, "Oh, this is like a really easy system. You hit upload on Amazon, you put up some cover art, and you hit publish, and you set prices. And that's all there really is to it. So there's no gatekeeper. So it never crossed my mind like not to do a thing in my ignorance, and that I figured like, oh, my wife will read it, my mom will read it, and even if that's it." I still had a really good time writing this story world with characters that I love, and I gave it a shot, even if it wasn't successful. But I can absolutely answer the question in the perspective of like being willing to do the thing that you love or enjoy despite criticism or fears of failure. For me, that was definitely the podcast. Because for me, in my life, and this is just me personally, when I started doing the podcast, when it's the Geek Bites podcast, I was at a super bad point in my life. Not like relationship wise. My life was actually pretty decent, paying my bills, had a good wife, but like just I suffered from depression my entire life. And there was always those moments where you're feeling the crash, and you know the bad thoughts are coming, and like those dark periods, and I could feel that hitting me, even though I was having a really good life. And I've been through it enough where I could tell it was coming. I just was feeling like I didn't have a community, and finding LitRPG kind of helped me out with that. And that I was finding a bunch of people. And I was listening to a podcast by Kevin Smith, who does a number of amazing podcasts, and he was telling me the story about his friend. I forget his name now, but they do the Tell 'em Steve J podcast, and he was telling me, my friend was like almost to the point of suicide, and I told him, do a podcast. It'll make you feel like you have a voice. And if people listen to it, it'll make you like you have a community. And I took that to heart, and I started the Geek Bites podcast with my friend, and it was just the two of us chatting. And then eventually spun off into the LitRPG podcast. I was getting to there. And it was really there that I found you guys. I found you guys who I'm talking to, the community that I'm a part of now. And that kind of gave me a place. But there was still that fear of like, oh, what if nobody listens to this? What if I'm just talking into the wind my entire life, and my voice isn't really that important? And so I can kind of relate to what you're saying in that respect.
I remember when you did. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, well, I still hear that. People keep telling me to get a real job. I've only been writing for years. I'm 24, and I was also in a bad place before writing gave me those past accomplishments, to support your today confidence. Today, a relative came up 3 times and said, "Look, I found jobs in your area." So, like, his phone and said, "Look, I entered jobs in the local area." I'm like,
and you're like, "Here's my Amazon page. Look, I have a job. I have multiple books out."
Yeah. So it's weird for me because I'm technically one of the first guys to get in this genre. At the same time, I'm usually the youngest guy in any group. So in that sense, it's weird because my life is
lucky sidekick
so much lower than everybody else's.
You're actually at the right age, the exact age I was thinking of when I posed that question. Because like you just graduated college, maybe a little bit older, like a year or two older. But like that's around the age where they're like, you got to pick this job to do this thing. You can't be an artist, or you can't be a blah blah. And that wasn't my personal experience is what I'm speaking of. Like when I was a little bit younger than you. Well, actually about your age, because I started college later because I was in the military, so I started a little later. So they're like, yeah, you can't go. I was gonna go be a game designer and then like a writer, and they're like, nope, go do this other stuff. So like you're already ahead of the game, man. You're 24. You published 5-6 books already, man. You already got the ball rolling. That's pretty amazing. Like, I mean, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's definitely people in the world who've been inspiring writers their entire 50-year life, and they never put the publish button out. And so you're ahead on that respect.
Yeah.
You know,
Which I'd like to point out, you know, the number of you authors out there who have served in the military? Like, dear Lord, we have a lot of military guys as authors.
Okay, this is
they have the discipline. They have the discipline.
No, this is why. Because you get to play with guns, no matter what branch you're in, you get to play with guns and cool shit. And then you have for about 5 minutes of the day, you get to play with guns or cool shit. And then for the other like 24 hours, you sit there and do fucking nothing. And so you're sitting there and you're just making shit up in your head for hours at a time because you have nothing to do but sit there. Let's make a story up while I sit here and stare at the water for 5 hours.
They call it grunt work for a reason.
Definitely some folks in the audience who are agreeing. We have Yuribu says United States Air Force. So there we go. Lots of authors. Like I think Dakota Crowder's in the military.
Blaze was in the military.
Blaze, also as well. Michael Chatfield. All in the military, guys. So yeah, lots of folks.
Yeah,
and I have a personal bone to pick with Michael Chatfield right now over 10-Week Curse.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was like your tibia or something. Never mind. Go on.
No. So basically, started reading 10-Week Curse, and I'm really upset that I read all 3 books and book 4 wasn't there. Michael Chatfield, if you hear this video, I'm upset with you. It's not ready yet.
Well, he has other novels. I mean, he has other series he's putting out. He writes like
Vacation. Have you seen pictures?
No, Michael Chatfield is a beast. I can't knock him. I'm joking. I'm totally
even
joking.
on vacation. That guy writes like at Dragon Con every year when we see him. He was always like, "No, I gotta go write something." He has like his little portable computer. He pulls up like little keyboards like in between stuff. He's like type, just knocking things out. Even on vacation, like he's traveling around the world because it's cheaper than like the rent in Canada apparently. And so everywhere he's going, he finds a place and he dedicates like most of the week to writing, and then he goes off and has a good time. So he's definitely a dedicated writer. He writes faster than I do. So
he
writes faster than everyone.
He writes insane. And I was like, I want to be like Michael Chatfield. I'm gonna write 10,000 words a day and put out freaking a book a month. Blah blah blah.
No. Those days I'm sitting there and I'm getting email updates from my Michael Chatfield Patreon. He's like, new chapter up. You get like 3 or 4 of them in a day, and you're like,
yeah, my Patreon is like new chapter up once a week. If I'm lucky. Yeah.
I'm doing once a month, man, but I'm releasing really big chapters.
Yep. We got a couple comments from the chat room there. Let's see where they are. Goodbye, Ray.
Yeah. I think
Eric Tron says, Bathroom Night, it was what inspired me to become a writer. I was super lucky to become friends with the author, Charles Rocks. Yeah, Charles didn't actually talk very highly of Eric Rounds, so I can confirm that. Let's see. Oh, and with a question from Bruce actually asked, what book made you realize you can do something better?
Yeah. On that note, I'm gonna say goodnight to you guys.
See you.
Yeah,
Jeff.
Real pleasure to meet both of you.
Hey,
yeah, man.
Yeah. I'm going to go buy Slime Dungeon tonight too. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I'll read it soon, within the month of February.
It's also audiobooks, I believe, for the Dungeon Chronicle, so you can listen to it too.
Getting a new narrator for this new one, since it's a new series. But
well, sort of a new series, but okay.
It is a new series. It's done. Anyway, see you guys.
All right, bro. Take care.
See ya.
Okay, so you guys that are left, we have Gabriel. What book made you realize you can do something better? Or like what were you inspired by to write? We can take it that way too.
Better is the wrong word, you know what I mean? Like by saying like, oh, I can do this better than that person, I think is the wrong word.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a few books, like pretty much all the LitRPG books I read, at first I'm like, oh, I can do this too. Like not like, oh, I can do it better than this guy, but like, oh, I could write this. This is fine. I could do this. Why am I not doing it? These stories aren't like this isn't a knock on anybody, but none of us are fucking Tolstoy, you know? None of us are amazing writers. And like I read, you know, Charles' book, or I read Taj's book, or I read your book. I'm like, I enjoy the story. It's a fun story. So there's no like, it's like they read The Land. They're like, oh, it's a fun book. It's not amazing, but like it's not like a literary masterpiece, but it's fun. So like, why not write a fun book? And so my shit. I just write fun books. So The Land, Bathrobe Night, Delvers, Alter World, Shaman, Way of the Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Australian dude?
Zachariah, the Frag series.
No, End Online. Is it End? Yeah. Those were like the first ones I read, and I was like, man, these are so much fun. Why don't I write one too? I think, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That's a great answer. Thank you. Tosh?
For me, I started off reading Caverns and Creatures, and I sat there. I was like,
Robert Bevan.
Yeah, Robert Bevan. Man, I was sitting there, like literally crapping my pants, laughing so hard. It was well, not literally or figuratively, but just
look, you were just imitating art.
Yeah, pretty much, because Cooper was great. So reading that, and then I think I moved on to, I definitely read The Land, and then I read Play to Live. Oh man, D. Russ, man, I love that series.
Awesome world.
And so it was just like I started getting into that, and it was just like, had this idea where, it's like I called my daughter and was talking to her about how the books go in video games with my son, because he was really into video games. I started talking to them and throwing the idea around about having her be a character in a game with cartoon violence. And that turned into Ruins of Majestic. So there we are. So pretty much I started reading. So the time I transitioned from reading to writing was about 3 months. And I literally read like maybe 50 books before. I was just like, I'm just reading and reading and reading, because I was living in California, and I was on workman's comp. And so I didn't have anything to do, and Kindle Unlimited was my friend. Oh my God. It was just like, oh yes, just keep reading on my Kindle. Just Kindle, I love you, Kindle. Like I got a back injury, so I'm literally laying there, and it's just like, oh, need more words. And it was just great. It was a great time.
You remember how hard it was to find books, to find more? I'm like, where's the next one? I need another book. Where's that?
And then after I read The Land, I actually found the LitRPG group, and that's when I started to be like, oh, there's a community. It's great. And then, I found other groups and other people, and I started hanging out with them, and it's like, oh, look, I have friends now. Because I don't go out. I'm literally at the point in my life where it's like dating, that can wait. I have 4 children, so I'm like, I can be by myself for a while. I can do that.
You're worth waiting for. That's right.
Yeah, so I've been busy.
You have been getting busy. For me, yeah, for me, I think I've already talked about like how I was inspired, but it was never really like, necessarily, this is a crap author and I can do better than this. I mean, to a degree it was, because sometimes some of the things that come out of like amateur writing is not always spectacular, and that's okay. I think one things I like about our genre the most is that we'll accept like subpar like technical writing stuff if it's a really fun story, if it's just a good time. It's really okay. Like other writers who come from other communities, they're like, they read our stuff and they're like, wow, I can do so much better than this, but then they'll write like a really technically proficient story, but they don't get the genre, like the things in the genre necessarily. And so even though it's like a technically proficient writing, like they don't understand the community, they don't understand gaming, they don't understand like our nerd culture, whatever the case is, and so then they don't do as well. But as long as it's a fun story, like we'll accept like some really subpar, right? Like some of my most fun stories that I've ever read have been like, oh, these are translations from another language, and they're missing vowels and their tenses are wrong, but it's still super fun, and I love these things.
Exactly. The Russians love the Russians for that.
Yeah, some of the things, and so for me, it was never this sucks. It was always like, I'm inspired. If this is the bar that's set in our community, I can do that. That's what I mean. Like, this is the bar of like technical writing. I can give it a shot. I can probably write at least as good as this.
We can do it.
And this is we really do have like a low bar for like entry of like successful stories, and that's okay. Like, so I consider myself a pulp fiction writer. I know I'm not Shakespeare. I have reasonable expectations for what I can produce, and I hire editors to make that better, and they really do a good job of that. For me, it's always like, I love the stories and I loved our community so much. I wanted to contribute more than like I want to do better than somebody else necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I think I like to think of all of us like really like we're all writers, we're all authors, but I think of us more as like storytellers because we really tell stories in a new way because we have stats and statistics, and that's kind of my thing with my books. I try to like incorporate things to help with the story, you know, that are different. Obviously they work, sometimes they don't, you know, some people may not like soundtracks, some people may not like wiki links in the fucking book, you know. But
I like the wiki links. I said I like the wiki links, man. I thought
about you.
I'm just saying. I mentioned WikiLeaks, like his last novel, The Gamer 2. He actually had a bunch of WikiLeaks saying like, "Oh no, this is real historical information," and I'm like, "You're linking the WikiLeaks, you know, to Wikipedia, so that's a little iffy in the first place." But yeah, those are actual historical facts he's using because, you know, history is written by the successful people, and so I understand where he's coming from. To me, it was definitely funny.
It's funny because I think we stopped asking the question when you were like, what do reviewers do that you hate the most?
Yeah.
And like, oh, I just hate like people that are like, I know what history is and I know this for a fact and you're stupid. Like it's like half my bad reviews are like, oh, do you not know that this isn't like that? I'm like, did you not know there's not really gods that send people back in time? I'm like, it's a fucking fantasy novel. Are people like, do you not know that, you know, the draw on a bow is 100 pounds? I'm like, dude, did you grow up in Mongol in Mongol in 1200 AD? No, like come on, like
I can tell you definitely did a lot of research for these things. I'm like, oh no, this, yeah. I'm like, that's why you provided it just for the reader. We were like, no, here's my sources. I'm citing things for you guys so you can know. I was surprised you didn't link like the people's history of the United States or something in there.
It's like people don't see that word fiction. It's like, did you not see the word fiction?
Yeah, I can make stuff up.
I can't. It's too fake for me. I can believe that the Native American gods are real, and you got sent back in time and have like a super awesome leather pouch. But no, not this thing. It's just people are funny what they can.
Like what breaks their level of like disbelief? Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. My brain. Too many directions at once. The pie chart doesn't fit. The slice doesn't fit in.
Perfect. We have another question from the audience. M.A. Carlson asks, what book had your favorite game system? Not necessarily your favorite book.
Oh.
So what has your favorite game system?
So I already typed in there that I love the Apocalypse Gate game system for redeeming the DXP. I'm like, ooh, do like.
This is okay. I think that Scotty Fudge, whatever, his turn-based system, he like
I love
read it. I was like, you did it. I was like, you did it. I was like, how is he gonna incorporate turn-based battle? I'm like, okay. I think that's just the most fun. Like the leveling and stuff is cool. It's pretty. It's pretty similar to his other books, the leveling stuff, but the turn-based combat. I don't know if that's the same question, but like that's like the coolest. Like I think that's the coolest system I've seen and accomplish right.
That was great. I love that one. That was amazing.
Yeah, was it tactics?
And the zombie. Yeah, Earth Tactics. Yeah, the zombie's just freezing.
I think my only biggest problem with him, like I like a lot of his books. I like most of his books, but then like he goes too into the sex direction for me. I'm like, I need more story. And we're getting too much sex.
It definitely depends on the series. Like a couple of the series are specifically sexual, like the Galactic series, I think it is. But he definitely keeps the sex to the particular series. There are two books from Scotty Fuchs that is turn-based tactics: Earth Tactic Advanced, which also has the second book, and also Tactical Fantasia. Both those do turn-based.
Yeah, he's I think he's a good author. I think he's really original. I think he does really good stuff.
Even with all the sex stuff, like the Futchiverse is amazing. Like the way that his characters bounce around in different books.
Yeah, it's Scotty versus.
Like if you don't know who Fat Scott is, you got to know who Fat Scott is. If you don't know who Fat Scott is or his song, you need to keep reading more Scotty Fudge.
I think Scotty's great. I think he's he doesn't get enough credit. I guess that's not true. I mean, I think he's plenty of credit. He's good. He's good. I like him a lot.
I don't think he gets the sales he should. I'll say in that respect.
Limited, is he?
What was that?
He's not in KU, is he?
I don't know. I don't see.
I think he's not in KU. If he was in KU, well, maybe he is. I don't know.
Let's check it out. We have the internet. We have Amazon, so it's like it's not like we can't.
KU now? Is your shit all worked out?
To whom do you speak?
Yeah, you. Ramon, is your stuff pretty much worked out? Did you get your Amazon stuff worked out and back in KU and stuff?
Yeah, everything's back in KU, and that was just a decision. Because for people who don't know, basically about 6 months ago, Amazon started sending out letters, essentially threatening authors who are in the KU program, saying that, oh, we have suspicious page reads for your KU, and if this continues, we're going to ban you, basically. And that's what they said. And they actually did to several authors, a couple of which who never recover, like Michael Scott Earl. That's kind of what happened, basically. But there was a whole like slew of authors who got these letters and got really freaked out because if Amazon bans you, it means you can't write anything. You can't upload anything on a different account, different bank account. You're banned permanently, basically. Yeah. And so rather than take the risk of losing my entire account, which was a good source of income for me, I quit my job at that point. I decided to drop out of KU and just like have the books for purchase. And within the last 2 months, beginning this year, basically, I decided to go back on KU because I've been talking to other authors, basically going why it didn't work for me. Like I basically made about 70%-ish of what I did with KU, basically. So direct
70%.
So direct sales weren't horrible, but it was a lot less. It was a significant portion of lost income that I had from KU, basically, without having KU. And so about 2 months ago, basically, I talked to other authors, like, yeah, those letters still go out, but they're less threatening. They're like, we suspect suspicious paid reach from you. We're just not going to pay you for them. And we're not going to threaten to cancel your account. And so that's been Amazon's shift in perspective of like, oh, they're not 100% sure of like who's really doing this and whether it's for like bad purposes or authors on authors like trying to sabotage each other or something. Because that a couple of articles had come out about people doing that, basically. Right. And so 2 weeks into like being KU, I got a new letter saying, oh, suspicious page reads, we're just not going to pay you for whatever we think is fake or false. And so some authors in KU just aren't getting paid the things they should be, but at least they're not getting kicked out or banned from the program. And so I was one of those like, oh, Amazon isn't being transparent about what they're considering suspicious page reads versus really fast readers.
Right.
The things like Michael Scott Earl said about his situation was that Amazon eventually told them, and this is a public post from him, so it's not like it's a secret. They basically told him, your readers are reading faster than we think is humanly possible, so we think you're cheating the system. And that was their reasoning for banning him from Amazon entirely, basically. And
they don't know.
The guy writes amazingly fast, but at the same point, there's a lot of readers in our community who read really fast. Like they'll read really as fast as they can click that button. And to Amazon's algorithm, that is apparently super suspicious. And I literally know people who told me time and time again, like, I read 3 or 4 books a day. So like I get that Amazon thinks that that's suspicious, but it's not. It's more common in our community, especially with KU, that you have really fast and voracious readers.
Besides Chatfield, who's successful wide? I'm trying to think who's wide besides Chatfield.
Chatfield actually did a really good job going wide. But he also puts a lot of extra work into advertising and things like that in those systems.
And he also works in a couple different genres as well.
Yeah. So my wide experience was probably different than other people. I just put things up places, and there's not the same community to like Apple or to Barnes and Nobles or to a lot of people just use Draft to Drive to do all of them at once, and including international ones and smaller public companies. And for me, it came down to math, being that Amazon controls something like depends on what server your information on, but somewhere between 60 to 75% of the ebook market. Yeah. And so if that's not your primary, that's most people's primary source of income for being a successful publisher. It's not the only way to do it. Obviously, there are a bunch of people on like 20 books to 50K, or like other writing groups where they say, oh, their wide programs and their wide distribution works really well for them. It's just it didn't work for me, and my math said, oh, I'm losing 30% of my income by not being on KU. And so I went back. And answering your question previously about Scotty Fooch, he has 1 book on Kindle Unlimited. That's the Realm Strider, which is his most recent release, which is the trading card game mechanics that he has there. That one, but everything else is not. But I think that's because he also put this up on Royal Road and other places. Yeah, I read it.
Is it good?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
I liked it. I liked it, but I also recognize that it's that's probably his weakest game system and all the stuff that he's written. Like, and that's kind of a default to like any trading card game system. Like, I always admire Scotty Fuchs for being willing to experiment with his game mechanics. So he has my total admiration. He's like he's the first and one of the only authors who's ever done turn-based mechanics. And he's the only author I know of who's done trading card game mechanics in like making it part of the story. And it just, by the end of the story for me, the trading card mechanics kind of disappeared, and it became a little more like Tactic Advanced, in that it was like zombies coming wave after wave, constant fighting. But the trading card game mechanics he established earlier just kind of disappeared to some degree or another. And so for me, it's like, oh, I get that it's harder to keep that going. And he had some great ideas. It's just that the execution of them over the course of the entire novel didn't quite work out well for me. But it's I give it a 7 out of 10, so because I had a good time with the story. But that's more. I'm also a fan.
And the more you know about Futch's writing, the more you know.
Yeah, there's definitely like tons of cameos in that novel too, from like all other series. The trading cards he uses are cameos from other novels.
Taj, did you see how Ramon went into interview or to reviewer voice? He goes, and he just jumps into the mode.
Well, you act like reviewer is a mode for him. That is Ramon.
That's most of my life. I mean, honestly, I spend 40 to 50 hours a week reading and reviewing, and less time writing. So there you go. Let's see. But my favorite mechanics in a story, to go back to Emmy Carlson's question, is Universe Online. I mean, except for the ones I read, obviously, but Universe Online by Ryan Viken Henning. I think that first game, Enter the Game, was probably my favorite game mechanic system, just because it was so flexible. It's a game mechanic system where you eventually have a bunch of like blocks that you can kind of purchase and add in as like you level, and how you essentially stack the blocks determines like your skill system. And so it was a very interesting, complex system that he described in there. And it was absolutely amazing. His story is kind of the one that inspired me to write my own like survival space story. So I that's definitely has a great place in my heart as far as like a really nice game mechanic system. After the first book, it became less survival in space game mechanic stuff, but it still did a really good story. I actually did an author interview with Ryan Viken before, and he disappeared off the map. I don't know what happened to him. Was
that the book where he gets Samus as a partner from Metroid?
That's I think that's Scotty Fuchs's book you're talking about still.
Oh, you know that? Yeah,
that's Scotty's tactic.
We don't call her Seamus.
Yeah, it's a different game. It's like, Universe Online is definitely one of like the ones that I like because of the game mechanics, specifically because it's not necessarily like levels and stuff. It's a very good like block skill system. I was like, oh, that's really pretty cool.
See, now I gotta like tag that one in my Kindle library, like Universe Online.
Yeah. This is why I do the podcast and the reviews, because like I have so many stories that I love. I actually did a survey of my own novels recently, and out of like some 800 or 900 novels that I've read and reviewed over the last 3 years, like only 30% of them are like have a negative-ish review of like 5 out of 10 and less, 30%, and that includes a bunch of 4 stars and 2 stars and a couple 1 stars for plagiarism. Most of them have been like 7 and above. So I love like 70% of the stuff I read, basically.
So I have not been able to catch your podcast in the last couple of weeks. So I like, what did you give Dave?
Dave Wilmarth?
Yeah.
Oh, I gave him an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for Last Grayson Chronicles. That just came up in the last podcast, so you're not too far off from it. You can still catch it, but it was an 8 out of 10, mostly because his story had some really good, solid resolutions. and his game mechanics storyline, that the in-game storyline was really clear. It had a point. It had base, and this is my only spoiler for folks if you haven't read it, but it does base mechanic. It does the baseball the series is known for, but at the same time, it also flips the script and goes after the bad guys, and that's part of the resolution in the story. But for me, the thing that pushed beyond the 7 was basically that he had really firm resolutions for all the major plot points. And I mean, like once you're not gonna like, oh yeah, that guy's not coming back, kind of stuff. And so it's like I was really super happy that he took the time to like go back and just clear everything out. Even if some of them aren't like super like I know people are gonna complain about some of that ending for the rural storyline, but it was definitely a solid resolution. So I'm like, oh yeah, that took it a step up for me.
So Universal Online Rise of Rex Part 1?
Not Rise of Rex, it's actually called Enter the Game. Rise of Rex is actually the second part of that series. It actually went with Universal Online Enter the Game Part 1, and then Enter the Game Part 2, then Rise of Rex Part 1, Rise of Rex Part 2. That's how that series goes. But he compiled them together into just Universal Online Enter the Game Complete Edition, which is 1 and 2 together. But like that first part, Enter the Game Part 1, is my favorite in that series.
Okay.
Did he do pretty similar covers for all of them?
They're the exact same covers. He does that for all of his stuff.
Confusing. I was like, oh, he's got a new book. Does he have a new book? I don't know if he had his book.
Nope. And that's mostly like, oh, the jinkiness of like the indie community.
That's also like World Tree Online.
World Seed.
World Seed. Like I love those books.
But they use the same cover. I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So I have this. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I wasn't saying anything.
No, I was going to change topics. Go ahead.
Oh, for free.
So I don't know if you have this problem. I mean, Ramon obviously, I guess, doesn't. But like, I'll start a new book. I'll be reading a book, and then I'll start thinking of a book that I'm writing, and then I'll be like, "Whoa, I forgot what I was reading the last few pages." Does that happen to you guys? Like, I got this. It's so hard to finish a book now. I don't know.
No, recently, like I've actually been doing a lot of reading, and I'm kind of happy because it helped me to relax back to the point where I was when I first started Majesta. So it's like, oh, I'm reading these books. Whew, the pressure's off. All right, now I can come back and attack Majesta like with fresh ideas and just be like, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? As opposed to just being stuck in my own head. So like, oh my God, like the Barrow King, I was reading the Barrow King. God. So yeah, like I just
Is that not good?
Oh no, it was good. CM Carney, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. The story was kind of weird because the first book was for the main character. Then the second book was about his sidekick, right? But the sidekick story was damn good. I gotta say, it was damn good as well.
Yeah, it's a good standalone novel. But I'm like, I don't know if you should call that book 2 as much as like side book 1.
Yeah, it's definitely be labeled as a side book 1. And then like he's got like 2 books and 2 side quests already. But I'm enjoying them and they're great. I got to read Michael Chatfield's new series, so that was great. I don't even know what else did I read. Hold on a second. What's on your Kindle, guys?
What's on your most recent read list? Yeah.
Well, we know what you've been reading, Ramon.
I was gonna do a harem, so I got into harem for a minute.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Who's really fun that I like a lot? If you haven't read him, the Hondo Jinx, man, he's a fun harem writer. If you haven't read any of his books, he does like this this Dan the Barbarian series.
Yes. I absolutely agree. That's a good game in the LitRPG series. Dan the Barbarian. I think he has 1, 2. No, book 4 came out on December the 4th or December 25th.
I just picked that up. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read yet. I want to read. And then Daniel Black's new book I haven't read yet.
I think I read that one. That's like when I start pounding books, man. It's like, oh my God, that was a beer I drank and I don't even remember it. Like, I just start pounding through them. Like right now I'm reading what's called The Dark Alchemist, The Dark Herbalist.
Oh, is that good? Did you like it? I know Ramon reviewed it, but
so far I'm enjoying it, but it's also a bit all over the place. You know what I mean?
Right?
Huh?
Translation? Yeah. Russian translation?
Well, some of it is translation. Some of it is basically that the story is just like by nature all over the place. It's like the way that everything has been going. Like
Yeah, the whole story is very slice of life in that you're just following a guy doing some stuff sometimes.
Yeah, but he's also becomes, like, read the first one, see if you like it. The first 3 books, I would definitely recommend. Book 4, right now, like as I'm halfway through it, like I said, it's bouncing around a bit. There's a lot going on, and it's like, but I could see how stories get a bit unwieldy as they move forward if you're
Book
not
4 is
following
the
it.
last one, isn't it? That's the when you're running out of the last one in the series.
Yeah, that's what finding the body or something.
That's the end of the series. He's trying to tie up all those storylines that he created earlier. So he's bouncing around a little bit, but he's also trying to tie up everything. So I get what you're saying.
So that might explain it. But then I also went and finished up Skylar Grant's the whole laboratory thing.
Oh yeah.
I had like 4 or 5 of the
futuristic Dungeon Core. Yeah.
Eric, bro.
Huh?
Said see Eric. Deuces.
Oh, chat room. Yeah, chat room. Eric Ramsey. But he said that the game mechanics he liked in the books for him was threadbare. He liked the good multi-class system with individual levels for skills. I thought that was really good too, actually.
I was surprised that Sequel, Andrew Sequel, is that his name? That bear? I thought he would get a huge, just like bump up to like top 100 or something when he had the View? Was it the View?
The View. Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
It was like the girls' summer's reading list, and Whoopi Goldberg chose him as one of her like 4 book choices for the View.
But he didn't get a real huge bump. We
also have to remember that story had been out for like a year by that time from book 1, and that's when she was talking about. So he still went from like 10,000 to like sub 1,000 again. So it was relatively a really good boost, just not as good as it would have been if it was like a fresh release or something.
Yeah, because then people would have read it that were already reading it. It probably would have hit top 100. That's the goal. Is that your So is that your guys' like? My next goal is to hit that top 100 mark because I broke the 5 and the 4. That top 100 is my like next marker. Like that my personal one that I'm aiming for.
Right.
What about you guys?
Okay, guys.
Tosh?
I'm aiming to be top #1 writer in the world, in the universe. I don't know. Like that's my aim. Will I reach it? Only time will tell. As I wake up in the morning and I drink my espresso and I point my pinky out, I know that I'm destined for great things. But if all you plebes can't understand, I don't know what to tell you.
That is definitely some goals. For me, I understand what you're saying. Like, I always think, and this is more review mode than writing mode, in that I judge a book's success based upon where they are in the Amazon rankings. It's not the subcategories. Right. It's not necessarily the number of reviews you get, although that's part of it for me. It's always like, oh, were you doing the overall Amazon rankings? Because that's ultimately going to say, oh, who's buying your book and how often are they buying it, et cetera, and read-through rates and all that. And so for me, top 100 is always like, oh, you're probably in the top 100 authors if you're getting top 100 stuff, basically. A moderate success for me is probably going to be top 1,000. Anything under there is a pretty decent success rate, and you can probably pay your bills on that. Assuming everything your series does pretty well. Even the
1,000 to the 500 though is huge. Yes. Like the difference in income from a top one. Like if you're between that 500 and 1,000, but if you're in that 500 to like, let's say 100 to 250, that's like double.
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely. Yeah, there's the big remember from it was like the first week of your sales. Like, oh, if you're in the top 1,000, like between like 5 and 1,000, you're gonna do pretty decently. Like you're gonna pay your bills. Like from my perspective,
personally,
anyways. Yeah, like
I can go to McDonald's a couple times a month with my earnings.
So like yeah. So top 100 is always the goal for me as well. But I think I have a skewed perspective in that the first book I ever wrote in the universe, and authors hate when I say this, Adventures in Terra, hit top 100 for being literally the only thing that I ever written. And I went to an authors conference and DragonCon. I told some authors that like, I hate you. That was the most common phrase in that story came out. Like, I hate you, Ramon, for making top 100 on the first thing you ever wrote in your entire amateur life. I'm like, yeah, sucks.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it's great that like I think when you told me your story the first time and this is the success you have, I think is like one of the best stories of somebody in the genre. I mean, you know, you found it later in life. You got success writing your books. Your books are fun. You know, you enjoy the job. I think that's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool that you get to do this, you know, for a living.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a choice to make.
Amazing.
And like, yeah, that jump was not easy for me. So I had to repeat my success a couple times before I realized, oh yeah, I could probably, you know, earn my regular income and then some. And like that first book I wrote, I was like, oh, that was my yearly paycheck for my janitorial job, basically. I was like, oh no, yeah, if I can repeat this, I'm like, and it's been the case since. Like I do enough to pay some bills.
Yeah, it's just that, yeah, man, that first, like, okay, I'm gonna do this for a living, and then you get that, you're like, I don't know if I can do it. It's a good feeling, man.
Yep. And it's definitely a leap to do full time.
It was like, woo! Like the first paycheck was like, yeah. Second paycheck was like, yeah. Third paycheck was like, yeah. Fourth paycheck was like,
yeah. And that's why you have to like keep producing, like you publish or perish, and that's kind of what it comes down to, unfortunately.
Like I said, if I had known what I was doing, I would have stayed on Royal Road for a bit longer.
Yeah, and I'm thinking we're all. I mean, I'm me and Taj at least we're like total amateurs to the writing and publishing thing, so we didn't know that. Yeah. So, and one of the other things I learned about as far as like having an extra stream of revenue was Audible. Like I knew once my book got good sales, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make an audiobook of this because I love audiobooks. Like I live off audiobooks when I was a janitor and like a substitute teacher because huge drive time. Like as a janitor, I could just plug in and like work for 8 or 9 hours, and that was my life. That's how I got storytelling to me. So I always knew I was going to do an Audible book, even though I didn't know the process or anything. And so when I made it, I'm like, oh, that increased my income for like by 30% just from like making an audiobook. And every year since then, it's been the same thing. Like every single book I make, you know, your first 3 months are like really good because your first paycheck is good. Next one is slightly less. But then by the time like the audiobook sales roll around, because it takes another 2 months for your audiobook to get made after you publish and then, you know, put on Amazon. Oh, by the time I hit that 3rd or 4th month of ebook sales, oh, then your audiobook paycheck comes in. You're like, oh yeah, that's making up some of that income from those lacking sales. And then hopefully by month 6, got another book out, or you know, month 5 or 6, whatever, another book out. Next cycle again repeats itself, and that for me was
definitely trying to get my cycle down to 6 months. Like 2 books a year is like was where I was aiming. And I'm still in that first year. So I'm looking at 1 book a year. Hopefully after the second book comes out, I'll be able to alternate series or whatever to keep it moving.
Having multiple revenue streams really helps to balance out that those pay gaps. It really does go, oh, Audible's ebook sales and then down to like practically nothing or something, or like reasonably nothing, you know.
You only have about a month.
You release a new book and it drives people back to the first one again.
Yeah. Like I mean, do you have about 2 months? About 2 months. The first month you get a good one, maybe 2 months of good sales, and then that's about it. Tapers down to where you need to put something new out. I think Amazon puts you back. Like Amazon takes you out of their whatever after a couple months anyway. You know, like you don't get shown a lot. So I think that matters.
No, absolutely, and those are all very true statements. We have a couple comments in the chat room from people who just joined us. Ian Mitchell.
Ian.
Ian. Is it Ian or Ian? I'm gonna go with Ian.
Ian. We've had this discussion because my actual first name is Ian, so like this is a big one for you.
Me the other one? Okay.
Huh? So no. We actually talked about it. I believe it was on Charles's Discord one night. And it came up that he was an Ian, not an Ian.
Oh, so Ian, if it comes from his mouth and his lips, and he was indeed that man.
See, look, there you go.
Ian. He is Ian. He's basically saying, let's see, he has 30 reviews this year for him. We also have Tajel, Bradley W says out. Let's see. Eric Uglin said he's aiming for 7 books this year. So he's a really fast writer too. Like he's coming out with a book in the Good Guy series. Like I think he came out with books 1 through 3 last year. And so he said he's planning to try to get 7 out this year. So good for him. He's also says he should get on those Audible things too.
Eric, I challenge you. I'm doing 12. Bring it. Also, shout out Ian, man. Ian, you review all of our stuff. Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Wait, are you talking to me or are you talking to Ian?
Ian.
Talking to Ian. Ian Mitchell, not Ian. If I was going to say Ian, I'd say Taj. Say Ian Taj.
I just go with Taj. That's what I know. I didn't know his real name. I thought Taj was his real name.
Taj is my real name. It's just my middle name. That's all my teachers called me that. Because my dad used to be a teacher at the school. And long story, yeah, but both of them are my names.
And Eric also confirms, he's like, Eric Eglin, there is definitely a 30, 60, 90-day drop-off in terms of Amazon algorithm support. That is all very true. So, yep, they expect you to keep producing books so they can keep paying you money.
Yep.
And the 12 books a year thing, we call that the Michael Scott Earl policy of writing. Yeah.
I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it this year. It's January. Putting a book out this month. Next month, I'm gonna try to do at least 10 this year, man.
Good for you.
I'm loving you guys. I'm loving the information. It's almost midnight. I'm about to get off of this stinking computer.
Okay. Yeah, let's call it, guys. Let's call it. It's kind of late.
It's perfectly fine. See, we didn't get to my Star Wars trivia, but that's fine. Maybe the next time.
Let's do it real quick.
No, it's basically just like weird random facts. I was going to see who knew all these facts, basically.
Oh, come on, let's do it.
We'll do one. We'll see who the two of you who gets it. Okay. What is Han Solo's call sign when he's scouting on Hoth?
Oh shit.
Yeah. Maybe the audience knows. I don't know. What is Han Solo's call sign when he's scouting on Hoth? I have like 5 or 6 of these.
Man, I swear to God, I know that, but I don't.
And that's from the good Star Wars.
Yeah.
These are all from the good Star Wars, yes.
Anybody in the Echo 1? There you go.
You are incorrect. Echo 7.
Echo 7.
Yeah. So, yeah. I had a bunch of things like that. So basically, that was it, really.
No, come on, bring it, because there's no clear winner yet.
I get one right.
No clear winner yet.
Let's see. What tool does Han ask Chewie for when he's fixing the Millennium Falcon hyperdrive?
Hydro spinner.
That's it. Taj got it. So Taj won. There we go. See, we have
come on. Keep it going. No, let's make it a contest.
What does Yoda eat from Luke's supplies when he lands on Dagobah?
One of those protein bar thingies. I can't remember what they were called though.
So candy bar? In case you have a candy bar, he says a protein bar. I would accept either granola or an energy bar, but it is an energy bar. So there you go. Let's see what else we have. If you couldn't get into The Empire Strikes Back when it originally came out, you could watch this film that came out 1 week before that won Oscars for Best Song and Best Score.
1 week before.
So this movie came out 1 week before, and it won Best Oscars for Best Song and Score.
Is it a Star Wars movie?
No, this is basic. This movie came out 1 week before The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh my God, what is this? I don't know.
Super famous. Sure.
No, wait, that's way older. What am I thinking? Hold on, let me think.
Ice Pirates.
That was a great movie. I love that movie.
Was it Indiana Jones?
Indiana Jones?
Is that your guys' answer? Or, if you're listening, are you phoning the audience?
Well, I'm actually reading the answers from M.A. Carlson, so he may win.
Yeah.
M.A. Carlson's answer is Indiana Jones. That is not correct. It was Fame. I even gave you. I said it's a really famous movie. It's Fame.
Oh God, that movie, the dancing movie.
Yep, those two movies came out in the same month. So there you go. Last one here we'll do is The Empire was filmed at El Studio in London at the same time as what other famous movie that ended up coming out 1 week after Empire. This film ended up being the first annual Razzie for Worst Director and Worst Actress.
Worst Actress?
I have no idea.
Director for the Razzies came out 1 week after Empire.
Worst director. I want to say like Return to the Blue Lagoon, but that's not it. Worst Director, Worst Actress. Man, it's got to be a bad movie then. 70s?
Bad is relative, but go on.
I don't know.
Is it a cult classic now? Is it a cult classic now?
Yes, it is definitely a classic now.
Then I have no idea.
Top 15 then, man. What movie was it?
Okay, the answer is The Shining.
Oh, really?
Really? That got a Razzie?
Remember that the directors, the original writer, did not like The Shining. He himself thought it was a terrible movie, a terrible interpretation of his work. So Stephen King did not like The Shining.
I remember that.
Oh, I know that.
So and critics kind of agreed sometimes. But for a lot of horror people, like, oh, that's an amazing movie, but it still got the Razzie for the worst director and actress. There we go. Yeah.
For olive oil.
I like
Popeye.
Popeye was interesting. I always think of Popeye as the first attempt at writing a superhero movie, because Popeye is kind of a superhero from the comic books, or from the comics at least. So, so that's my interpretation, though. So there we go, folks. That'll end the podcast here. So everybody wants to say goodbye, and then we'll hit stop.
Bye, everybody. It's been good hanging out with you. I love you. Bye-bye. And stuff.
Thanks everybody for coming and hanging out with us and watching. It was fun. There's a lot more people that I thought showed up than would, and that was a good conversation, guys.
Yeah,
I'm glad
especially for this last minute kind of thing. Like you just mentioned this a few hours ago. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll do this. Why not? But everybody, thanks for hanging out with us for LitRPG Podcast. I'm Ramon Mejia, and we had Gabriel Rathweg, we had Taja, we had Jeffrey Falcon Logan on the show. So thank you all, everybody who showed up for chat in the chat room to give questions and watch us.
We got to give a shout out to the Invisible Beard. We have to give a shout out to the Invisible Beard.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He didn't make it, but still. So thanks everybody. You guys have a good night, and we'll catch you later. Go read some LitRPG.